Majesty. Melania and I are deeply grateful to you and Queen Camilla for your extraordinary graciousness. And to William and Kate, thank you so much. It's been so great being with you today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. The phrase special relationship, seen from American eyes, the word special does not begin to do it justice. We're joined by history and fate, and by love and language. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you.
Security remains the cornerstone of this special relationship.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Top of the morning to you. It is 2 minutes past 6. It is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan, and this is the home of common sense. A very, very big 4 hours for you. This is a crisis that is shaking the royal family to its very foundations. It threatens the integrity, the public perception of, and the future of our monarchy. It's the only story in town. The headlines around Prince Andrew go from bad to worse. Front page of today's Mail on Sunday. Epstein set Prince up with second sex abuse victim. It's being alleged that it was more than just Virginia Giuffre involved in this scandal. And royal bombshell number 2, Andrew told the Met Police to dig up dirt on his sex accuser. These are allegations denied by Prince Andrew. But I've got to tell you that this story won't go away, and it's now a major headache for King Charles, the biggest crisis of his reign. We will bring reaction from some of the biggest names in royal circles, including the man that set all of this in train. The author of Entitled, Andrew Lowney, live in the studio. This is the book that opened the Pandora's box of this royal scandal. He's with me after 9. Where do we go from here? Do we need an Act of Parliament to strip Andrew of his title Prince? Because surely keeping the title Prince Andrew is terrible for the brand of the royal family. The guy is a blot on the landscape. Should he be stripped of Prince? It would need an Act of Parliament. It would be a letters patent. It's a massive constitutional move, but it could be necessary. Let me know if you think that's the way to go. And should he be turfed out of the 30-bedroom Royal Lodge? 0344 499 1000. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? And this is not a drill. The monologue is back. In today's Dolan's Dispatch, one lone brave Premier League player refused to take the knee. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, a Leeds and England hero, has said no, no, no to absurd, counterproductive political correctness. Taking the knee is wrong. It is divisive. It's got to be scrapped. And that is the topic of today's Dolan's Dispatch. Taking the knee is taking the pee. I might get cancelled for today's Dolan's Dispatch. It's in 2 hours' time. I might get cancelled. Good! So it's great to have your company. Let me tell you that my priority is you. and getting your opinions on the national television and radio airwaves. You can call me now, 0344 499 1000. Kieran is taking your calls. And I want to know what you think about Prince Andrew. How do you tackle this issue? It's a major headache for King Charles, not of his making. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? Is blood thicker than water? The guy, of course, has not been convicted of any crimes. Is he being thrown under the bus? It's all about opinions here on the home of Common Sense Talk. So we are, of course, on the radio, DAB+, we're online. You can also watch the show. Head to YouTube and search Talk and you will find us there. Let me bring you up to speed with tomorrow's front pages. And let me tell you that they make for shocking reading. The Sun on Sunday, exclusive new royal shock. Andrew axes Fergie party. Panicking Prince Andrew cancelled a birthday party for ex-wife Sarah Ferguson at the last minute as the Jeffrey Epstein scandal engulfed him. Fergie had been due to celebrate turning 66 last Wednesday with a lavish bash at their mansion in Windsor. Well, it's been cancelled, as has Prince Andrew's royal career. Daily Star Sunday, bombshell claim in late Virginia Giuffre's memoir. Andrew gagged accuser to save the Queen, shamed Prince Andrew, insisted Virginia Giuffre sign a gagging order to avoid embarrassing Queen Elizabeth during her historic Platinum Jubilee celebrations, according to a new book. The Observer, he lied to me about Epstein. Emily Maitlis reflecting on that interview on Newsnight with the former Duke of York. Of course, he's not the Duke of York anymore, just plain old Prince Andrew. Sunday Express, Labour's sentencing shake-up puts public at risk. Thousands of perverts to be freed from jail early. And Zara's feathered friend for Ascot. Just who was in the office at the Sunday Express last night? Did they not get... Do they have the internet? The two stories are a story about sentencing and jails, and then Zara Phillips is wearing a posh frock. Who is the editor of the Sunday Express? Yeah, I cannot find. Where are the Prince Andrew stories? Absolutely wild, but there you go. Look, we all have a bad day at the office, don't we? That's not going to happen today, not on my watch. I'm going to deliver the biggest and best talk breakfast that I've done since my return. Because how can you not get excited about a story like this, which has got everything? It's showbiz, it's money, it's corruption, it's sex, and it's the royal family. Sunday Times, William wants to go further on Andrew and will ban him from his coronation when he becomes king. Also, spy suspect was stopped with suitcase of cash. And questions for Farage and his partner over alleged fraud. We'll get to all of that. There are some politics today. Tony Blair wants to cut taxes. God, he was an awful Prime Minister, but I'd take him now, wouldn't you? Over Keir Starmer, if you had a choice, Blair or Starmer? Blair all day long, although I do agree it's not the best choice. Folks, listen, 0344 499 1000, book your place on the show. Tony has messaged in, first message of the day, top of the morning, Tony, at 9 minutes past 6 in the morning. And Tony says, put Andrew in a one-bedroom council flat. It will be less costly. Tony, I've got to disagree with you. I'll tell you for why. Because if he's in a council flat, we're paying for it. I don't want to give that guy a dime. But thank you so much for your message, Tony. Keep the opinions coming. I'm delighted to say we've got authorised opinion now. We've actually got someone with knowledge and connections. Public relations icon, political broadcaster and journalist Piers Pottinger. Good morning, Piers.
Morning, Mark.
Where do you start? How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew?
Exile. That's the solution, and I'm afraid it's the only solution. I think he and Fergie were going to have to actually pack their bags and go off maybe to Rwanda.
It's not a bad idea.
I mean,
there's got to be a couple of little buildings that the government have paid for already.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, one in, one out. I think it's two out. I'm sorry, it's over for them, and it's for the sake of the monarchy. I think the sooner they go, literally leave the country, the better it will be, because there's an awful lot more, I'm sure, to come out, as the Mail on Sunday is showing, and as we are on air, I'm sure there'll be more people coming out of the woodwork because there's much more, obviously, about Epstein.
Yeah.
Don't forget, at the moment, the Epstein scandal, it's only focused on British people. Ghislaine Maxwell, Peter Mandelson, Andrew and Fergie. They're all British, yet Epstein's fortune was all developed through his contacts with very famous Americans who noticeably keep in the shadows over this. And it's also interesting that the American press is totally focused on all the British figures. I wonder why that is. I really do. And of course, even Trump is not exempt from his connections
Donald Trump,
to
Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Woody Allen,
and Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett.
He had dinner regularly at the Epstein house. And you have to look at all these people who saw Epstein much more frequently than even Andrew, even though Andrew now, it appears, saw him much more often and was in more contact than he ever admitted to initially. But it seems there are many more. I mean, Epstein's fortune was colossal, and no one knows how he made it. Forget about how Andrew funds the Royal Lodge. Much more interesting is how Epstein built not just 100 million, not just 500 million, billions of dollars.
Most definitely, it looks to be an establishment corruption scandal focused and located in the United States.
Absolutely.
It's an American scandal, but it's been characterized as a British one.
All the victims or perpetrators, all the blame, and as Epstein and Virginia Giuffre are both conveniently dead, it is very interesting how the emphasis is entirely on all the British actors in this appalling saga, which is only going to get bigger and worse as time goes on.
Yes, I mean, the circumstances around Epstein's death raise more questions than answers.
Absolutely.
Given the fact that whilst in prison, he was clearly a suicide risk, but the officers in charge of the prison guards were not present when it happened.
And there's the 1 minute missing video.
The CCTV broke down at just that moment. In America, one of the most sophisticated countries in history, a country that gave the world the iPhone, and they can't run a tape across a prison cell containing America's most notorious criminal.
It is extraordinary. And it's one of the many questions about this very sordid affair.
And also, at the risk of tittle-tattle, but Virginia Giuffre, may God rest her soul, this is a woman, of course, whose book is coming out next week, posthumously published, who also took her own life. There was such a mystery around that because she was involved in a car accident in Western Australia, which was where she lived at the end of her life. She then posted that the accident had been so catastrophic that she had 3 or 4 days to live.
That's right.
This account was then dismissed by the police that it was a minor collision, and her remarks about her health were debunked by medics. She then passes by her own hand 4 days later. And this is a woman who just cleared a cheque for £12 million from Prince Andrew by way of compensation, and then she takes her life. Make it make sense.
It's very, very odd. And also, of course, don't forget, she was estranged from her husband, who had a restraining order against her to keep her away from him and her own children. So there was something very, very wrong going on there. I think she was a very disturbed person. And I mean,
of course,
the problem is, of course, if you publish a memoir posthumously, no one can discredit it, no one can question it, because there's no one there to answer.
And she can't be sued.
And she can't be sued. So she's free to have said anything. And memoirs are much less reliable than diaries, because memoirs are recollections after the event, whereas diaries tend to be actually at the time of the events. And memoirs have a way of becoming the kind of thing you like to remember or want to remember, rather than what actually happened.
Well, let me tell you that this is a huge story. I make no apologies for saying it's going to dominate today's conversation, because this story does have everything. It's showbiz, it's celebrities, it's money, it is sex, and it is our royal family. It is the biggest headache of the King's reign. It threatens to rock the foundations of the royal family. It threatens the integrity and the future and the credibility of the monarchy itself. This is huge. Next up, I want to ask a simple question, which is, should Andrew lose the title Prince? Now, I know that this might seem like a bit of a circus because he's lost the Duke of York title. He's no longer a member of the Order of the Royal Garter. I understand that. So he's paid a price. He's no longer a serving royal. But I don't know whether in all conscience, as a national broadcaster, whether I'm comfortable calling this man Prince Andrew. Do we need an Act of Parliament and a letters patent to strip him of Prince so he simply becomes Andrew? Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. And should we send him to Rwanda? That's next.
When he's giving interviews and says that, he understands that line collapses in about 30 seconds, and then he goes on to his real agenda, which is anti-Semitism, trying to stop a particular group of people from going to a football match, just as you have particular groups of people trying to cancel Jewish artists or put pressure on art centres or threatening them that if they don't cancel those people, they're going to smash their windows or they're going to have a huge amount of hassle.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
The Mail on Sunday, royal bombshell #1. Epstein set Prince up with second sex abuse victim. Does this go beyond the late Virginia Giuffre? And royal bombshell #2, calls for police probe as email reveals Prince Andrew procured private data for a smear campaign against his sex accuser, Virginia Giuffre. Andrew told the Met to dig the dirt on Virginia. With me in the studio, Piers Possinger, political commentator, public relations guru. Piers, you knew Prince Andrew.
I did, yes.
Tell me about the Andrew that you knew, the guy that you'd worked alongside. What was your perception of him?
Well, he was very businesslike, I would say. I don't think he had a great deal of sense of humour. He was brusque. He was very determined to get his own way. He saw things his own way, and he, I don't think, was particularly good at responding to criticism. But having said that, on his business side, he did do quite a lot of good things for business, partly because he had so little actually to do as the sort of least important royal and the one very few people wanted around. So he had to create his own opportunities, and some of the business things, not all, were certainly very positive, and there'll be
For Britain. As a trade ambassador.
Absolutely, there's no question about it. And he certainly helped me in my own business. When I went to Singapore, he gave me some introductions of people who became clients, and it helped me develop the business. It was very helpful, and came out of the blue. I didn't ask for it, he offered it.
And he was a brave soldier.
He was indeed. So, I mean, you know, there are sides to him that are not as dreadful as we see. I think also this business of starting the Mail story about asking about a smear campaign, although I think it's quite wrong that he asked a royal protection officer to do this. This shows again his unfortunate lack of judgment. He had very poor judgment. There's no question about that. Look at the people, some of the people he was involved with. And that was the difficulty, was making sure he didn't actually get involved with the wrong people. And my God, he did get involved with the wrong people. But gathering information on Virginia Giuffre, which is what he was trying to do, is fair enough when the woman's trying to destroy your life. And maybe quite justifiably, but on the other hand, he wanted to know just how credible this woman's outpourings were going to be seen as. And of course, she had a very unfortunate life right from day one. And it's a very tragic, her story is very tragic indeed. But that's with hindsight. While she was alive and making these accusations, he, not unnaturally, was trying to defend himself. But involving the royal family, involving the Royal Protection Office, involving the Metropolitan Police is actually, of course, a huge error by him, and this again will do him no good in the public arena.
Most definitely, and there's more to come. Some insiders have told me that there is worse to come, and Piers, I know that's your view as well, and you're incredibly connected in royal, political and business circles. But what's clear is that Virginia Giuffre, Andrew's sex accuser, is now haunting him from the grave. Next week, more bad headlines as her devastating book, posthumously published, comes out. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? David is in Gloucestershire. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Mark. How are we all?
I'm very well. Listen, what gets you up so early on a Sunday morning, big man?
Oh, well, it's just one of those things. Once I'm up, I'm up. I've always milked, you know, I'm retired now, but I used to milk cows. So once, you know, you used to get up and that was it. So
how long does it take to milk a cow?
Well, one cow?
Yeah.
About 5 minutes.
There you go. And
you're milking a herd of them, so, you know.
I had teats in my hand once and it wasn't for me.
No. Well, it's all by machine these days and sometimes by robots on some of these nice herds, so.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, listen, David, talking about teats, what about Prince Andrew? I mean, this is such a scandal. It's a big problem for the royal family, for the monarchy. That makes it a problem for Britain and our international reputation. What would you do with Andrew?
Well, if he's broken laws in this country, he should be arrested and charged and taken to court, if found guilty, imprisoned. If he has done this, if it is not in this country and it is in the US, then extradite him. No ifs, no buts, and put him in front of a US court. You know, there shouldn't be any smart deals. Oh, I've got loads of money. Oh, we can pay this person off or that person off, which is what's happened in the past, we believe. I think, you know, that's the only way to bring people like that down, and only others that are involved.
Well, David, you raise a great point. Piers Possinger, Andrew's legal woes are not behind him, are they? Because there could be further proceedings against him, potentially.
There could be, and the FBI could be dragged into this in some way, but it's very interesting they're not involved already. And again, that to me signals American interference, because I think America wants this just to be, doesn't want it to escalate in the way that it has the potential.
So let
to
Andrew
do.
be the fall guy.
Yeah. And I think that they would be content as to where he is now. Also, you've got the problem with the so-called the only one victim we know of at the moment, that she happens to be dead. Yeah. So it's quite hard to bring a case like that.
Most definitely. David, what about exile? Because it's important to stress that Andrew has been convicted of nothing and denies the allegations. His acknowledgement would be that he made some bad decisions. He was a man of poor judgment, but nothing criminal beyond that. So if he doesn't have a case to answer legally, what about exile? I mean, we don't really want him living on the Windsor estate, do we? Particularly when William becomes king, because William's forever home is actually on the Windsor estate, and his next door neighbour will be old Randy Andy.
Well, that is a problem for the royal family. I mean, they've got lots of places in this country they can put him against, but he's got this lease, hasn't he? So they said they can't move him. Yeah. But you have to go down the legal route to see, and whatever. I don't know. It's a very difficult one. If his poor judgment is not criminal. That is the point, isn't it? But he must not be allowed to get off the hook just because he's got money and connections. That's my point.
Yes, I mean, what do you think about the idea of an Act of Parliament and a new letters patent to strip him of Prince?
It's a very difficult one because I mean, I was amazed that he gave up his dukedom and all these other things, because I said, well, there's more rubbish coming out then, obviously, this next week, because he wouldn't have given those up on his own. He's obviously had, they've obviously told him what's coming. There's obviously worse to come, we get that. Yeah. But, can you remove his princedom? Because that is a sort of, it's a bit like being a mister, isn't it? It's a bit like me saying to you, you're no longer a mister. Well, you were born a mister. That's not your fault, is it? He was born into the royal family. You can't, it's a difficult one.
It most definitely is. But David, you've raised lots of important issues, including whether Andrew may have a case to answer of criminality going forward, particularly as these allegations continue to snowball. I think legally he's not out of the woods. Financially he's not out of the woods, because the guy has got major outgoings and zero incomings. He's got a problem with his brother, the king, who wants to turf him out of the royal lodge. It's an absolute nightmare. You do not want to be Prince Andrew this morning, but should he be Prince Andrew at all? If we had an Act of Parliament and he became Andrew, his name would simply be Andrew Windsor. I wonder whether that's the way to go. More headlines, more reaction after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
The Sunday Times, Prince William wants to go further on Andrew and will ban him from his coronation. The Observer, he lied to me about Epstein, Emily Maitlis, writing about her Newsnight encounter with the former Duke of York. And I think the Mail on Sunday wins the Prince Andrew arms race today with two bombshell stories. Andrew told the Met to dig the dirt on Virginia Giuffre, and Epstein set Prince up with a second sex abuse victim. These are allegations that the Prince denies, but they're absolutely, the paper's chock full of these stories about Prince Andrew, which are likely to get more in their number and more devastating for him. Tony said put Andrew in a one-bedroom council flat, which is a great idea. Andy says great show. Accusations in Britain now, you're guilty until proven innocent, and it's trial by social media, says an unnamed texter. I mean, is there a sense in which Andrew is being thrown under the bus, having provably not committed any crime?
Well, yes, in some sense. There's a bit of truth in that, but the problem is he's made statements publicly, and some of them have proved to be not entirely accurate, to put it very mildly. And this is of a colossal interest worldwide, because the monarchy is an enormous international focus for the world's press. And of course the monarchy drives tourism to a large extent in Britain. People come to see Buckingham Palace in their millions every year. And therefore the monarchy is a focus of attention, and it's not surprising that he's getting this kind of attention. Of course, with social media, there's going to be an awful lot of rubbish and a lot of terrible stuff that is obviously insane, just quite frankly, horrible abuse. And anti-monarchists will be rubbing their hands with glee.
What sort of turmoil, emotionally, do you think that the King is currently going through?
I think a great deal. This is, after all, his brother, and it is not pleasant to have to take the actions he's done. He's been stronger than the late Queen, but Prince Philip, the late Prince Philip, always disliked Fergie particularly, was very, very anti her being involved in the royal family, and never really came round to bringing her back in the fold. He was virulently anti her, and felt that her relationship with Andrew was extremely damaging for Andrew and the royal family. Now, you could say he's been proved right to some extent there, and he was a wise old bird. But the problem now for the royal family is that, I mean, the only option for Andrew and Fergie is exile, rather like Wallace and in the past, Wallace Simpson. I mean, there's no other way, because living here, they're just going to have a living hell wherever they live in Britain.
Most definitely. What do you think about the idea of a new letters patent and an act of Parliament to strip him of Prince? I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility.
No, I think I'm afraid. I initially thought no, there's no need for that. But I feel, and also once you start doing this, that is the beginning of the end for the monarchy. And I think the King and everyone who care about the monarchy would resist that very, very strongly.
It sets a precedent. Any time a member of the royal family is in trouble, strip them of
absolutely.
Prince or Princess.
I mean, if you start doing that, you'll soon end up sending Andrew not to Rwanda, but send him to the Tower of London,
yes,
where
of course
previous princes have been sent.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, I mean, there's still space there, isn't there?
There is. Well, the very room that the prince is in the Tower is seen by millions of Americans every year.
How did the Queen Elizabeth, late Queen Elizabeth II, and Prince Philip get it so right with Princess Anne?
Yep.
And King Charles, who, for his flaws, is a decent man and a good monarch.
Yep.
and Prince Edward, who's more or less kept his nose clean and stayed out of trouble. How do they get it so right with 3 of their children and so wrong with the 4th?
Well, you say that, but there were problems with all of them over time, and none of them had, except for Edward, has had a happy marriage. I mean, Anne has had more than one marriage as well, and Charles, we know about his love life. I mean, as parents, you know, they had children who you can't say it was on the pastoral side a universal success. And I think you know, it's very difficult. I think one of the worst problems was Andrew didn't have enough to do, wasn't given enough to do to keep him occupied in a proper way, in a way he felt that was actually of substance, that he was actually doing something that mattered. And he, there's no question, he always felt to be a bit pushed on the sidelines, and therefore he was the one who always wanted to be treated as a royal more than the real royals, who, you know, it's like the biggest star in show business is always the one who's the most approachable and the easiest to get on with. The lesser stars are the divas,
the wannabes,
the ones who behave badly and throw their weight around. And Andrew liked to throw his weight around, there's no question of that, which the others on the whole don't.
So did he suffer from the curse of the spare, like his nephew Harry?
There is, but don't forget, Princess Anne, or the Princess Royal, went from being the most unpopular royal to the most popular royal in the space of a few years.
People forget that. Why was she so unpopular?
Well, she was seen to be also quite wild, liked to enjoy life.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And
bit of a dark horse.
She was very outspoken, and she could be very acerbic. She's got a very fierce brain and a very sharp brain, and she can be very funny and very witty, but quite acerbic. And there was a time when she was seen to be, it was around the time with Mark Phillips, I'm afraid, where she was seen to be basically just living the high life and not doing much. She then buckled down and became the hardest working royal, and very quickly became the most popular royal.
Yes, go figure. Well, it stands to reason. Then we've got a rather significant figure in Prince William, who is, of course, Andrew's nephew and next in line to the throne.
Yeah.
And the Sunday Times are reporting, Piers, that William wants to go further on Andrew and will ban him from his coronation. I mean, that's inevitable, isn't it?
It is inevitable, yes. And I mean, I think it's wrong to say he wants to go further and ban. He's just not going to invite him. I mean, it's as simple as that. And by the time the coronation comes around, hopefully Andrew and Fergie will be quietly somewhere away in exile with no one actually talking to them.
I mean, you joked about Rwanda or the Tower of London,
yes,
but conceivably, where could they go? I mean, do you think that Charles could just write a cheque and buy this guy an apartment in, I don't know, a condo in Africa or something?
Well,
where would he go conceivably?
Well, I don't think he's penniless. And when people say, how does he pay for the Royal Lodge? First of all, he's got investments, and he did have quite a lot of business dealings over the years, and I believe that his revenue more than covers his expenses in the Royal Lodge, which would mean he could afford to live where he would like to go and where they would accept him. Which is another point.
Well, should he be turfed out of the Royal Lodge? Mary has called Talk Breakfast. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, listen, I'm very well. Delighted to have you on the show. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew, Mary?
Well, my thing is that if an Act of Parliament went through to take the Prince away from Andrew,
yes,
should you not also think, under the circumstances, think about doing that with Prince Harry? Because in many ways, Prince Harry has, done things in a different way, but upset the royal family.
Well, Mary, I think you raise a good point. Prince Harry, Piers Pottinger, has exacted enormous damage on the reputation of the monarchy, not least by calling them a bunch of racists.
No, absolutely. Your Mary is quite right. You know, as I said earlier, once you start Acts of Parliament to remove those kind of titles, where does it stop? And just because, I mean, Harry is behaved appallingly, is a dreadful man, married to an absolutely appalling woman, and they lie through their teeth all the time, and they're the most obnoxious members of the royal family after Andrew, and but you know, if once you start the ball rolling by having Acts of Parliament to remove titles, then you're going to get people like Mary and many more saying, why don't we get rid of Harry as well?
Mary, you raise a really good point, though, because to be fair to Prince Andrew, he's done the right thing, hasn't he? He's relinquished his dukedom and his membership of the Order of the Garter. So this is a guy that actually, unlike Prince Harry, has done the right thing.
Well, yes, and in a different sort of way, he's tried to keep quite quiet about it, whereas Prince Harry and his dreadful wife go around the world trying to sort of be royalty.
Yes.
But then, as you say, accuse Prince Harry doesn't seem to have any respect for his father, in my opinion, who the poor man is suffering from cancer. I mean, why don't they went to America to have a low profile. Well, why don't they just shut up and get on with it?
Well, I agree. They've criticised the monarchy. They've talked about their time as frontline serving royals as a miserable experience, and yet they remain the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Make it make sense, Mary.
Sorry?
It doesn't make sense, does it? That they condemned the royal family, they hated being frontline serving royals, but they still call themselves Duke and Duchess, and Meghan still calls herself HRH in private correspondence.
Well, yes, I mean, there's so much about them that there wouldn't be any reason why Prince Harry shouldn't have the prince taken away from him. But goodness knows what his wife would do if that happened. I mean...
And you know, to add insult to injury, Mary, I believe that eventually that couple will divorce. I don't think it's a good marriage by any stretch. And when they divorce, she remains Duchess of Sussex, which I think really sticks in the craw for most British people. Mary, here's a question for you. Who's worse, Andrew or Harry?
I think they're on the same par, but for different reasons.
What an intelligent answer. Mary, loved your call. Do call me again soon. 0344 499 1000. Now, more on this scandal to come. Let me tell you, at 9 o'clock, the man that set all of the wheels in motion, Andrew Lowney, the author of the bombshell biography entitled The Book All About Prince Andrew. He's live in the studio at 9 a.m. You won't want to miss it. Don't forget, of course, Dolan's Dispatch at 8 o'clock. Taking the knee is divisive, counterproductive and wrong. I'm not pulling my punches. Today's Dolan's Dispatch in an hour and 15 minutes time may get me cancelled. Good. 0344 499 1000. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? And next up, Labour tears up its Islamophobia definition, and Tony Blair wants tax cuts and agrees with the Tories about immigration. All of that is next.
you mentioned his subsidiary titles a moment ago,
Yes.
Earl of Inverness, Baron Killyleagh,
Yes.
in County Down. Now, in 2022, all those people acted against Prince Andrew. The Duke of York took away his freedom of the city of York. The city of Inverness said he should be deprived of titles. The same happened in Killyleagh in Northern Ireland, in County Down. Again, there were feelings there that he should no longer have that title. So this has been quite long-standing.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, Mark, says Dave. You could remove Andrew's Prince title, but the damage is already done, and the chance to further damage to the royal family will not go away. Barry says, morning, Mark. The late Queen and Philip got it wrong with all their children to varying degrees. All of them have an arrogant, privileged streak, including the King, who I don't think is doing a particularly good job. The popularity of the royal family is steadily declining and they need to be careful. Well, Barry raises a good point. Does this scandal, do these bad headlines threaten the future of the British monarchy, Piers?
Yes. I mean, there's no question. This is very bad for the monarchy as a whole, and I'm not surprised we get comments like that, because in the world we now live in, a world that's much more equal, much more less formal, many people question the value of the monarchy. But the monarchy is essential for this country for two reasons. One, that it brings in an enormous amount of business. If we had an elected president, it would be no one's going to come and see their house, no one's going to come and see them. Yeah. It would just abandon the heritage. And one of the things we still do brilliantly, better than anyone else in the world, is pomp and circumstance. Yeah. So things like the changing of the guard, Royal Ascot, a unique event, nothing like it anywhere else in the world. These are things that we need to keep the monarchy for alone. For the most part, they behave very well, most of them, and a lot of them do a huge amount of charitable work because they're not allowed to get involved in anything controversial or political. But the other reason is that if we didn't have the monarchy, we would have an elected president, which would make us I mean, if you look at the kind of people who are running for, say, President of Ireland, you had Conor McGregor versus Michael Flatley as candidates for the president. You know, a martial arts man and a tap dancer.
It's a circus.
I mean, do you want them, or would you rather have the royal family? I know which I'd rather have.
Most definitely, and they'd still live in a posh house. They'd still need security and other such resources, and they wouldn't have the soft diplomatic power that, for example, King Charles has.
And they'd have no history. They'd have no heritage. Yeah. They'd have nothing of any kind of substance behind them that people could look up to.
Well, that's right. And when King Charles visits the United States, he stays at the White House. Yeah. Not the Best Western down the road, which I'm sure would be the case for some clapped-out ex-politician that was called Britain's president. Thanks, but no thanks. Can we talk about the Labour government? Because there are some big political stories today, Piers Pottinger.
Yeah.
And one is this issue of Islamophobia as a definition. Now, Labour has torn up its definition of Islamophobia amid fears that it could threaten free speech. A party working group has drawn up new wording that will replace the controversial definition it adopted in 2019, substituting the term Islamophobia with anti-Muslim hate. So can you explain why this is a significant move?
Well, yes, it's because the government are in disarray over how to deal with this problem they perceive of hate crimes against Muslims. But they're confusing the issue, in my view. Incidentally, this committee is headed up by a former Conservative, Dominic Grieve, who, in my view, should know better, because I think this whole thing is absurd.
Yes.
Because, first of all, it's not racist. This has got nothing to do with racism, because Muslims are a faith, not a race. And are they drawing up anti-Christian laws? Are they drawing up anti-Judaism laws at a time when we should be looking at protecting the Jewish community, who are under enormous threat in this country at the moment, worse than since the war, and never has there been a worse time to be a Jew in this country, and that is a terrible thing to say. My father and many people's fathers fought in the war so that we would never see the persecution of Jews again, and now we're seeing it, and it's shocking.
Yes, Jewish people are always the canary in the coal mine of a free society. And given
Absolutely.
that British Jews don't feel safe in this country, then we're not a proper country at all. And of course, Israeli football fans can't come to England's second city of Birmingham to watch a football match.
Which is absolutely outrageous. If the police can protect Palestine protesters, then they can protect Jewish football fans. And that's what we are talking about. And the fact we have a Muslim Home Secretary whose constituency is adjacent to the football ground, and of course predominantly Muslim, this apparently has nothing to do with the fact she hasn't stepped in, which she could do, and sort this out, which we really have got to. Keir Starmer for once was right to say this is absurd, we've got to do something about it. But on the other hand, his Home Secretary knew about this a week before and did nothing to stop it. And you know, all this pretense about Islamophobia definition, this is all a red herring. This has got nothing to do with what's really going on here. What we've got is a situation where the Labour Party, desperate to cling on to power, are trying anything to appease and show support for their Muslim voters, who are increasingly relevant to their many of their MPs' seats, because there are so many now in this country. The Labour government is looking at trying to do anything to show support for them at the expense of everyone else in this country. And it's really, that's what's the divisive issue. This government itself is being divisive, and very dangerously so, in my view.
An Islamophobia definition and Islamophobia law would essentially be a blasphemy law by the back door. We've not had a blasphemy law for hundreds of years, and it would have prevented, if it were in place a few years ago, the ability of broadcasters and others to call out the grooming gangs.
Exactly.
Who would have got away with their egregious crimes, which were racially motivated to a degree.
But my point is this: if you're going to have a blasphemy law, it's got to cover all faiths.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not racist, because, as I keep pointing out, Muslims are not a race. Muslims are a faith. There are British white Muslims. They're not. It's not racist.
No, and it would be great news for extremists and for terrorists, because if you had an Islamophobia definition, well, then you wouldn't be able to say something along the lines of that radical Islam or Islamism is responsible for the vast majority of terror attacks and terror threats to this country. If I said that on the radio under the circumstances of an Islamophobia law, I could go to jail.
Yeah.
For stating something which is the case, provably.
But if I said to you, you're a terrible Christian...
well, I am, I'm afraid. Don't ask my mother.
There's nothing you could do about that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And that's, of course, the double standards, isn't it? It's the same example when you have comedians that lampoon Jesus and the Virgin Mary. Do you remember the Olympic ceremony in Paris, which mocked the Last Supper?
Yes.
Which I thought was fine, because I'm a free speech absolutist.
Yeah.
But my thought was, yeah, great, no problem with that. Now do Islam.
Yes, exactly. I know.
And of course it will never happen.
No, of course not. No.
Because it's an egocentric faith that won't allow any criticism.
Absolutely. And that is why I am not in favour of the Muslim faith. And I'm sorry, but they also need to play a role in diversity. And also, why is it no asylum seeker ever seeks asylum in a Muslim country?
Yeah.
One wonders why.
That speaks volumes. Tony Blair, he has backed Kemi Badenoch on migration by arguing small boat arrivals should not be able to claim asylum. A few years ago, he told Sir Keir Starmer to ditch the woke stuff because the voters hate it, and he wants to cut taxes. I mean, he was an awful Prime Minister, but I'd take him now over Keir Starmer all day long.
Anyone would, because actually, for once, he's talking sense. And I mean, of course, he's right. But to hear a Labour former Prime Minister, the most successful Labour Prime Minister ever, to say we should be cutting the top rate of tax, he's talking about, and encouraging the wealthy to stay here, which is dead right, because you want to see economic growth. And nobody ever gets economic growth by overtaxing people. You don't tax your way into prosperity. It doesn't work. Rachel Reeves still keeps thinking, and the way she was talking the other day, she seems to think her last budget was a success. And she says, I'm going to do more of the same. I'm going to keep on doing this wonderful stuff. She's obviously totally deluded, and her days are numbered. If she's the Chancellor by the end of this year, I'd be very surprised, because I think whatever she does in this disastrous budget, she's dug a hole for herself, and she can't blame Brexit, and she'll try and blame Brexit, the previous government, the global situation. She'll blame anything except for her own disastrous previous budget, which has stifled growth. They're not building homes. The NHS is in a worse situation. Education is going down the pan. And the Department of Education this week has done another wonderful socialist thing, recommended that in fact, they're going to ban people taking birthday cakes into school
we saw that.
for their children.
Madness.
I mean, what on earth, what sort of society is there, do we live in, when the government is banning birthday cakes in primary schools? Something really has gone wrong here.
More to come.
Your Majesty, Melania and I are deeply grateful to you and Queen Camilla for your extraordinary graciousness. And to William and Kate, thank you so much. It's been so great being with you today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. The phrase special relationship, seen from American eyes, the word special does not begin to do it justice. We're joined by history and fate, and by love and language. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you.
Security remains the cornerstone of this special relationship. We have the deepest, most advanced defence relationship in the world.
As I said last night, the bond between our countries is like no other anywhere in the world. The United States and the United Kingdom have done more good on this planet than any two nations in human history.
We are working together to end the humanitarian catastrophe in the Middle East.
The one that I thought would be easiest would be because of my relationship with President Putin, but he's let me down. He's really let me down.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
And I'm Mark Dolan. This is Talk Breakfast. It's the story which is shaking the monarchy to its core. The Prince Andrew scandal has erupted big time, and this could be the biggest threat to the royal family in living memory. Fresh bombshell reports this morning claim that the King's disgraced younger brother tried to enlist the Metropolitan Police to smear his late sex accuser, Virginia Giuffre. It's alleged the former Duke asked his taxpayer-funded bodyguards to dig up dirt on the woman whose explosive new book is out next week and which promises to expose the full devastating truth about her relationship with the former Duke of York. So he's already lost his royal titles, but the headlines keep coming and the questions will not go away. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? 0344 499 1000. Text the word TALK in your message to 87222. Send me a voice note as well. My priority for the next 3 hours is getting your opinions on the national radio and television airwaves. To make matters worse, new allegations have surfaced around Sarah Ferguson, Andrew's disgraced ex-wife. It's claimed that she was bankrolled by Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years and even took her daughters to celebrate his release from prison after his conviction for child trafficking. Meanwhile, in the world of politics, former Prime Minister Tony Blair is talking sense for once, backing Kemi Badenoch's immigration plans and calling for tax cuts to boost the economy. Meanwhile, Labour HQ has torn up its own definition of Islamophobia. Is this a step in the right direction for this ailing and unpopular government? Plus, this is not a drill. The monologue is back. A brave Premier League footballer refused to take the knee yesterday. I'll be telling you why this divisive, empty gesture has had its day, and I'll name the woke celebrities still on their knees to the cult of political correctness. That is Dolan's Dispatch in an hour's time. It might get me cancelled. Good. Taking the knee is divisive. It is completely counterproductive. It is wrong. Taking the knee is taking the pee. That's Dolan's Dispatch at 8 a.m. Do not miss it. Of course, you can hear us on the radio, DAB+. We are online. You can watch the show. Just head to YouTube and search Talk. And we've got a very busy 3 hours. So, as the saying goes, let's talk. And let me bring you up to speed on today's front pages. Prince William wants to go further on Prince Andrew and will ban him from the coronation. Of course, he will be king at some point, and it's likely that he'll seek tougher sanctions against his uncle when he takes to the throne. Sunday Express, thousands of perverts to be freed from jail early. The Observer, Andrew lied to me about Epstein, Emily Maitlis on that Newsnight interview. The Mail on Sunday, royal bombshell number one, Epstein set Prince up with second sex abuse victim. Does this scandal go beyond Virginia Giuffre? And royal bombshell number two, calls for police probe as email reveals Andrew procured private data for a smear campaign. The headline, Andrew told the Met to dig up dirt on Virginia. Sun on Sunday. Exclusive new royal shock. Andrew axes Fergie party. Of course, she's part of this scandal. Those two are a deadly combo, aren't they? Talk about the blind leading the blind. And the Daily Star Sunday, bombshell claim in late Virginia Giuffre's memoir. Andrew gagged accuser to save the Queen. And last but not least, the Sunday Telegraph. Andrew sought to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre. And the other headline, a political one. Cut 40p tax rate, Blair urges in break with Reeves. Now, don't forget, at 9 o'clock, it's the man who set all of the wheels in motion, the author of Entitled, the devastating book about Prince Andrew, Andrew Lowney, live in the studio at 9 a.m, taking your calls 03444 499 1000. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? Is it time now to chuck him out of the Royal Lodge? Should he live in exile? Should we send him to Rwanda? We paid for a few houses there, didn't we? Why don't we put him in accommodation in Rwanda? Surely that would be a perfect example of one in, one out, which is a great point made by studio guest, the public relations guru Piers Pottinger, who's still with me in the studio. And let's get political reaction to this from the outstanding political commentator and broadcaster, Theo Usherwood. Good morning, Theo.
A very good morning to you both.
Now, of course, your great area of expertise, Theo, is matters political, matters Westminster, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, Leader of the Opposition, the Cabinet. But this is a story, Prince Andrew, that transcends politics, showbiz and much besides.
Of course it is. It's a huge story, and the newspapers have more jaw-dropping revelations this morning that he gagged, used gagging orders in order to protect the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee, that he ordered his bodyguards to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre, of course, his accuser. And, you know, the King took a fairly remarkable step at the end of last week when he decided to strip him of his titles of being Duke of York and the formalities that come with being part of the royal family, such a senior member of the royal family. But there are those who think he should have gone much further, and I tend to agree with them, by stripping him of his title of being a prince. And Prince William, from my reading and understanding of it, seems to get the gravity of it, and that actually he needs to go much further by banning him from his eventual coronation and from the royal family. I think it'll be, obviously, because it's William's uncle rather than his brother, as is the case with the King, it'll be much easier for William to do so. Obviously, there's some sibling loyalty there still residual, but he's brought the royal family into disrepute. He continues to bring the royal family into disrepute, and I think it's probably now time just to find some sort of exile where he can be parked and just not cause any trouble, so that if there are further revelations, at least the royal family can turn around and say we've dealt with this completely now. And I think whilst it continues to hang over and he continues to be allowed to hold the title of prince and live in the Royal Lodge and and enjoy some of the trappings of being a member of the royal family, if not all of them, then I think it's just going to continue to. We're going to keep on coming back and asking for more as more and more revelations come out, and I'm sure there'll be further twists and turns in this scandal.
Well, definitely. King Charles is not the Prime Minister, Theo. He's not a politician. This is a family matter. It's his younger brother, but it is a political style headache for the King.
Yeah, absolutely. Prince Andrew is his brother. She was and I'll be corrected on this, but she was the favourite son of Queen Elizabeth II. She was the one that he was the one who, of course, got all of the slack. But ultimately, it seems to have been his downfall, and he's been left with, out a proper job and without the income that would finance the lavish lifestyle that he enjoys, and therefore he's turned to people like Jeffrey Epstein. I think also the really damaging scandal is this links to the Chinese. We've had those at the end of last week, and the infiltration there potentially into the royal family by Chinese spies and to the highest echelons of British society. Yes, this is I'm not for one moment undermining the severity of this scandal around Jeffrey Epstein and his links to Epstein, but I think we mustn't forget, that photograph that came out at the end of last week with Prince Andrew pictured next to the man accused of being the most prominent China, who led the spying ring in this country, and what that does potentially. That story I think still also has some way to run. So in my view, I would defer to Piers in how you would handle a PR scandal like Prince Andrew. But I think that sometimes it's much easier just to get ahead of the story, cut all ties. It might seem, to outsiders, it might seem particularly harsh, but I think that's probably the safest way to go for the king as he seeks to restore at least a little bit of credibility in the royal family. It's been a difficult few years. Princess Catherine's been very ill. The king's been ill himself. The Queen Elizabeth II just carried this aura, didn't she? With her, wherever she went, she was the world's longest serving monarch. And with her death, I think it's been difficult for the king to more broadly reinvent the royal family and to keep keep things on the show on the road. But Prince Andrew just doesn't help, and I think it's much easier now for the king to cut ties completely.
Piers Pottinger, you know the royal family very well. You've worked with various members of the royal family, including Edward and Andrew, and you've been close to them. So therefore, but my question to you is, King Charles, has he done enough to tackle this crisis? Has he been too soft, too weak, too slow to act, do you think?
No, I think a lot of what was just been said. It's been a very difficult year for him. He's had all kinds of things to deal with. He's thoughtful. He doesn't do knee-jerk stuff. And I think he's done about as much as he can at the moment. I would just take issue on the China front, because I think that is very separate. Andrew's dealings with the Chinese was very much as part of his business ambassadorial role and at the behest of the government. And actually, if the Chinese had access to the royal family in any way, it's not going to make any difference to the country. It's not an espionage
So you don't
matter.
think that the China link is anything to do with personal enrichment or corruption on his part?
No, I don't think it's certainly to do with corruption. He may have made some money out of investments made jointly or in China, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't forget, China is our third biggest trade partner as a country. The whole country does huge amounts of business with China, which is one of the problems the government faces at the moment over the Chinese spy scandal that is developing. And that is just going to get bigger and bigger as well, because almost every day the government has to change its story on what happened over this case being abandoned. And now the Chinese have said, actually, no one seems to have picked this up, very chillingly on Friday. They said if the embassy, the proposed new embassy in London, isn't approved, there will be consequences. Now, if that isn't a threat, I don't know what is.
Well, let's get to that, because I've got to ask a simple question, which is the China scandal one which threatens to engulf this government, who are facing myriad challenges at the moment? We'll come to that. Plus, is Tony Blair right that the Prime Minister should cut taxes and stop the boats? We'll discuss all of that next.
King basically said enough's enough, because every week there seems to be another headline that is besmirching the reputation of the royal family, and particularly, obviously, his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And I think in the end, Prince Andrew, as he is now known, realised that he had to accept that this was not a good look. But my goodness me, it's a long time in coming. The trouble is his arrogance has always stood in the way, and his lack of ability to read the room.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? I'll be taking your calls at 7:30 sharp. Book your place on the show. Kieran is taking your calls 0344 499 1000. Text your message and the word talk to 87222, and voice notes are welcome. Rob says, good morning, Mark. Fab show. Prince Andrew has fallen, and rightly so. Hopefully, devious Starmer's fall is coming soon. Let's hope. That is Rob in London. Rob, thank you for your message. With me in the studio is the political commentator and public relations guru, Piers Pottinger, a man that's been very close to several members of the royal family, including Prince Andrew. And down the line, one of the most respected and best connected political commentators in the country, Theo Usherwood. Theo, briefly, if you can, this issue around Chinese spies, how politically problematic is it for Keir Starmer? Is it an existential threat to his premiership?
There are two things, I think. The first thing to say is that if you look at what's happened over the past 7 days with this scandal, I think it is a problem for the Prime Minister in Westminster. I do think if you look particularly at his claim in the House of Commons on Wednesday at PMQs, when he stated very clearly that the only person who made this decision to in terms of the evidence was an involvement from the government was the Deputy National Security Advisor, and he didn't, and nobody else was part of that decision. No ministers, no other officials were part of that decision. That statement, I think, could come back to haunt and I think is widely predicted to come back to haunt the Prime Minister badly. Because it's clearly, if you look at the fact that parts of the Labour manifesto have been copied and pasted apparently into the evidence, the statement that was provided to the Crown Prosecution Service, it's very clear, it's impossible to see how other officials and ministers weren't aware of what was going on. And it can't just be pinned on one individual. And I think we know, going back to Boris Johnson and Partygate, all about the ministerial code. And if you knowingly mislead the House of Commons, then that is a breach of the ministerial code, and you can lose your position. Now, is it going to get to that stage? I'm not sure it is, but that's the pinch point in Westminster. What I would say outside of Westminster is, I think, yes, we all understand the severity of the story, but I don't think it has the purchase necessarily with voters in the same way that the COVID, everybody could understand officials in Number 10 dancing on tables and drinking red wine whilst the country was in lockdown. Everybody could understand how damaging that was and how angry that made people feel. Everybody could understand the expenses scandal when we had the financial crash, and then we had MPs claiming expenses to clean their duck ponds or moats. That was quite easy for the public to understand, and listening to Sir Ken McCullum, the Director General of MI5, earlier in the week, where he was talking about solving Chinese plots and the daily threat to the Chinese pose to the British state, what I didn't understand as a punter as somebody who listens is, what does this entail? How does this affect me? And that part of the story at the moment doesn't exist. And I think until it does exist, it's not going to cause the same damage to the Prime Minister as the grooming gangs scandal has already done. It's not going to cause the same damage as the disastrous budget last October, and we're going to come on to talk about the choices facing Rachel Reeves in a moment. It just doesn't have that. It doesn't have that purchase with voters. Yes, it's a very significant story. Yes, we should all be concerned about it. But in terms of getting people angry and really furious with Keir Starmer, I'm not sure it has that element to it at the moment.
Piers Pottinger, briefly, if you can. Do you think this China spy story brings down Starmer?
Well, it has the potential to, and Theo is right in saying it more so in the House than outside it at the moment. But don't forget, people love a spy story. People get very excited by it. They all go to James Bond or Mission Impossible or the Bourne Theory. They love spying. And in the Sunday Times today, there's a very, very interesting piece about the secret meeting that happened with the Jonathan Powell, this murky national security advisor. The first time ever there has been a national security advisor who isn't a civil servant. And he's purely political appointment. And that means he's basically unaccountable, which is very, very unusual. Now, Powell is probably the man really responsible for giving away the Chagos, outrageous as it was. And if you look at the characters who were at this secret meeting, they were permanent secretaries, the head of MI5, they were everyone just below the level of a minister. So when Starmer says in Parliament there is no ministerial involvement, technically he could say that is correct. However, all these people will have reported to their ministers. And it is absolutely really ingenuous to think we are going to fall for the idea that no ministers were involved in this decision. The Crown Prosecution Service also has a lot to answer for as to explaining really who told them and why to drop the case properly, instead of trying to pin it all on Matthew Collins, a civil servant who by all accounts is a man of high integrity, merely doing what a civil servant does, his job as instructed by his minister.
Meanwhile, we do have the incoming budgets happening in November, of course, November the 26th, Theo, and taxes are going to go up, aren't they? In other news, the Pope's Catholic and bears will leave themselves in the woods.
Yeah, taxes are going to go up. And I know many of your listeners will be tearing their hair out at this, but
does she tear up the manifesto commitment not to touch income tax, VAT, or national insurance?
I don't think she will tear up that commitment. I think there are people who actually look at it and think that she should tear up that commitment, because the alternative is to go after assets, and the Chancellor was pretty clear when she was speaking at the IMF earlier in the week that that's the way what she's minded to do. But of course, we don't want it's a good thing to put money away. We don't want to be taxing. It's a good thing to save for your pension, or to own stocks and shares, or to own second property. That's people deserve to have wealth. People shouldn't be taxed out and shouldn't be discouraged from having wealth. And I think to go down that route, I'm not sure I don't think it is the best route. And I think there are those who are reasonably saying, well, actually, the original mistake that Rachel Reeves made, well, she made lots of mistakes, but let's go through them. Just the three big ones that I see it was that in the manifesto they had that triple lot promise on tax. I think the easiest way to have done it would have been, and they didn't want to be accused by the Tories of being tax, high spend, but they shouldn't have gone ahead. They should have promised not to go ahead with the cut to national insurance that the Conservatives were promising. That would have been the easiest thing. The second thing would not have been given £10 billion in public sector pay rises to to tube drivers and train workers who are already on 70 odd, 80 odd grand a year in the highest levels of their pay. And then the third thing is, and this is where she really entered the doom loop of where we find ourselves, is to put up, to create that jobs tax on national insurance for employers last year. She said technically, that's not a tax on ordinary working people, but it deters investment. And if the jobs market now, we've got figures out last week, which shows unemployment at a 4-year high, is extremely jittery. Companies don't want to recruit people. They don't want to. It has the opposite effect of actually driving economic growth. And so we find ourselves in this situation where the figures get worse. Then she has to go back to tax rises. She can't do spending cuts. I think she should do spending cuts, but she can't do spending cuts because she's boxed in by her own Labour MPs. And then she's boxed in by the financial markets, quite rightly, of course, who's saying, well, you know, they want to know that UK PLC is somewhere they can safely invest their money, that they can buy up government debt and know that they're going to get their money back. And we've seen, of course, the creeping up on bond yields, and that's very dangerous for the economy. And there's a real danger, I think, that if the men and women and the algorithms in the city of London and more broadly across, you know, in the global financial markets go, hang on a moment, enough, we can't put up with this. You know, we're going to rate, you know, the UK on a similar scale to some sort of despotic nation in terms of its ability to pay back its debts, then Rachel Reeves will end up going cap in hand to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, asking for a bailout, and at the very least it will cost her job and could possibly do for Starmer as well. So it's a you know, November the 26th, the budget day, is a huge day, and there are so many pitfalls. It's actually quite hard to see at the moment how Rachel Reeves navigates a path through it and comes out the other end unscathed.
I agree. Piers Pottinger, this forthcoming budget could be the beginning of the end of this Labour administration.
I think so, yeah. I think it's certainly the beginning of the end of Rachel Reeves because, as Thea's just explained very lucidly, there's not much she can do. She's boxed in, and it's mostly of her own making. And the other question is, if she's going to actually go after people's assets, they will have created those assets already, having paid tax on it. And I think she has to be very careful, because one might actually even consider going to the Labour Party's favourite court, the European Court of Human Rights, and say, how can the government tax me on something I've already paid tax on? I've got to have the right to have saved assets, that something is safe. If you're saying none of your savings are safe, that's a terrible position to be in. And it does show that the only way socialism works, it operates, is to just take your money. And you know, they're somehow wedded to this ludicrous manifesto. Goodness knows why. They've broken enough of it already. It's in the past. I mean, forget the manifesto. Do what's right for the country. I'm sorry, that's what she should be doing.
Well, if she did that, she'd have to break the habit of a lifetime. Theo, before you go, a quick word on the Aston Villa-Israel football row. Where's this going to go, do you think?
Well, I think there's a story in The Sun on Sunday, which one of your teams sent through, of links to a councillor who was part of that decision-making process, who's backing Lucy Powell to be deputy leader of the Labour Party. It's very likely, of course, that Lucy Powell is going to become the deputy leader of the Labour Party, much to the chagrin of Keir Starmer. Of course, Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, is his ideal candidate, and I think that only just speaks to the ingrained problems in parts of the Labour Party when it comes to anti-Semitism. That hasn't gone away. The Prime Minister made a very clear promise after that horrific terrorist attack in Manchester that Jews were safe in this country. And here is the acid test. Can football fans from Maccabi Tel Aviv come to that Europa League fixture in Birmingham next month and go to the ground safely, cheer on their team, and then leave safely? And if he can't make it happen, and I have a feeling, you know, when I read the statements from the PM, he feels like a commentator. He feels like he's doing our job. You know, he's getting angry about it. He's getting hot under the collar. But, you know, he is the Prime Minister. And he, you know, He should be showing that he can be an effective Prime Minister, and he should be saying to the police, what resources do you need? OK, I'll provide those resources. And if they're still turning around, and the council is still turning around and saying, well, we can't do it, well, then the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police shouldn't be Chief Constable of West Midlands Police. Birmingham City Council should be put into special measures. He needs to, rather than just talking a game, he actually needs to start doing and backing it up with actions.
Last word, Piers?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Actually, the Home Secretary's job to do this and give them the resources they need. It's absolutely outrageous, and it must be, the fans must be allowed to go to this game, whatever it takes.
Theo, you've doubtless got a very busy Sunday ahead. Thank you for joining us, one of the most respected political commentators in the country, Theo Usherwood, and PR guru and friend to the Royals, Piers Pottinger. Piers, thank you for the XL contribution today.
Pleasure.
We're going to have to, you know, throw in some extra little thank yous today for all the time you've given us. It's been a really important conversation. Please come back and see us again soon.
I look forward to it.
My thanks to Piers Pottinger. Next up, how do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? Your calls.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Taking the knee in football is divisive, counterproductive and wrong. That is Dolan's dispatch in just 22 minutes' time. Don't miss it. It might get me cancelled. Good. Talking about cancellation, how do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? If you're just joining us, more bad headlines for the King's younger brother. Sunday Times, William wants to go further on Andrew and ban him from his coronation. And the Mail on Sunday seems to have won the Prince Andrew arms race with two royal bombshells. The first, Epstein set Prince up with second sex abuse victim, and royal bombshell number two, calls for police probe as email reveals Andrew procured private data for a smear campaign. Andrew told the Met to dig the dirt on Virginia Giuffre. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? Francis is in Lichfield. Francis, welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Hi, how you doing?
Listen, I'm very well. I'm doing better than Prince Andrew. What do we do with the guy? He's no longer a duke. He's no longer a member of the Order of the Garter. Should he be stripped of his prince status?
I believe he can, because I think you've spoken in one of your previous podcasts about letters patent.
Yeah.
Which basically is, let's say, a job description for how you allocate titles and all that sort of stuff. And I think there's a precedent in 1917 when George V had a bit of a clear out because of some of the royal family that were a very German adjacent stroke Nazi party.
Yes.
Horrible thing to say. But I believe there is a precedent.
Well, there is a precedent. The question I've got, logistically, I think you could do it, Francis, with an Act of Parliament, which the Prime Minister would have no problem getting through because it would have the support of the King. The question is, would that be the right thing to do? Is it time for this man to be a civilian whose name would simply be Andrew Windsor?
Also, I'll slightly disagree with you on that one. I believe the last name is actually Mountbatten Windsor.
Mountbatten Windsor, right. Yes, but I stand corrected. You're absolutely right. A royal expert, I am not.
Well, a bit of a monarchist. Love the Queen. She'll go down in history.
Yeah.
So anyway, maybe if they can keep him on the royal estate, will be good in so he doesn't go ramping around the countryside. The only thing is, it's where Prince William and the Princess of Wales are moving to another house on the Windsor estate. It's a bit closer to that place. They'll have to build a big wall to keep him out.
You will. Old Randy Andy, Uncle Andrew living next door. Talk about neighbours lowering the tone, Francis.
I remember he's got all sorts of things like Miles Andy, and I think both him and Fergie haven't met a rich person they haven't loved, let's put it that way.
That's a really good point. Where did the Queen and Prince Philip get it so wrong with Prince Andrew, do you think, Francis?
Well, I think some people are just arrogant.
Right. He's just a wrong un, right? Just a black sheep of the family.
Yeah, and I think because obviously when he was much younger and everything, things were a bit more formal, and I think he just got... the royal thing well and truly, I don't know. I don't know the right words to describe it.
No, but I know what I do exactly what you mean. I mean, it might be that it's the curse of being the spare, which we know has bedeviled Prince Harry. Going forward, how do you think the King should handle this? Because it's a major headache for him politically, but it's also his brother.
Yeah, well... That's the trouble, really. I mean, for example, you've probably seen the video of Prince Alice, where they're at the funeral, and Andrew goes up to William.
Yes.
Cringes, yes, and go away, you know.
It was so embarrassing. It was the funeral of that's right, the Duchess of Kent, and Andrew was muscling in, cracking jokes at a funeral. And as you absolutely rightly say, William wanted the ground to swallow him up. Francis, it is wild. Blood is thicker than water, but Andrew is pretty thick as well. Really enjoyed your call, Francis. Call me again soon, 0344 499 1000. Barry is in Norwich. Good morning, Barry. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew?
Oh, I was ringing up about Islamophobia. But,
were you? Apologies for that. My bad. Okay. Well, listen. All right, but before we get to Islamophobia, what would you do with Andrew? Would you strip him of the prince? Would you chuck him out of the Royal Lodge, which has got 30 bedrooms?
I'm a staunch Republican, so I'd get rid of all of them.
Right. Well, listen. Do you think that your cause as a Republican has been furthered by the Prince Andrew scandal?
I do. I mean, personally, I have a lot of respect for the Queen because she's been there in my life. Yeah, right. But I think the King is very weak. I think Prince Andrew is not a disgrace and should be over in America answering questions to the local American authorities.
Yeah.
And I just think the royal family is just so far out of touch with the British public. I just think it's a bygone era, to be honest with you. I think when the Queen died, a lot of the royal family died with her.
Wow. Well, listen, I think that's a very, very powerful thought. Well, look, thank you for your improv opinion there on the Andrew scandal. What about the news then that Labour are going to tear up the definition of Islamophobia because of free speech concerns? Your reaction?
Well, I agree with your guest earlier on. You had on
Piers Pottinger,
yeah. I think this Islamophobia rule is just, yeah. If you're going to protect one religion, then you have to protect all of them. You know, I'm really angry at the moment because we're allowing thousands of undocumented men to come into this country by boats across the English Channel. Yet we can't allow a few hundred Israeli football fans to come over for the Aston Villa match because the Home Secretary she can't guarantee their safety, and they've spoken to community leaders. Who are these community leaders, and who are they protecting them from? Who can't they protect them from when they can protect thousands of Palestinian hate marchers prancing through London every Saturday, waving all these flags? Yeah,
of course, exactly, and making Jewish people afraid to leave their houses, and waving banners like "Globalise the Intifada," which, for those that don't know, Barry, and I'm sure you do, means having bombs in shopping centres and on public transport.
Yeah, I mean, we're going back to sectarianism, aren't we? I mean, I remember the 1980s. Yeah, right.
Me too.
You know, we're going back to sectarianism, and it's not good because I don't think Shabana Mahmood should be the Home Secretary when she's got her constituent, like you said, is right in Aston Villa football ground. Yeah, you know, and she's a Muslim and she's got Muslim constituents, and you know, what I mean, it's just not. And they should scrub the whole Islamophobia and whatever other phobia regarding religion they've got planned. This is a country of freedom of speech, and to deal with offence, you have to be offended. You know, right? And, you know, I just think this country is slowly going down the roads of a dictatorial, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's not a good look.
Thought police, authoritarian, welcome to hell. Yeah. Barry, call me again soon. Mate, you dropped a lot of truth bombs this morning. Speaking of truth bombs, this is not a drill. The monologue is back. One brave Premier League footballer yesterday, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, refused to take the knee, and rightly so. This move is incredibly divisive, counterproductive, and it is wrong. Taking the knee is taking the pee. That is today's Dolan's Dispatch in 15 minutes' time. I guarantee you don't want to miss it. I'll be calling out the woke celebrities peddling this nonsense. Today's Dolan's Dispatch might get me cancelled. Good. Next up, talking of cancellation, Prince Andrew. Where do we go from here? Well, here's a question for you. Should Prince Harry be the next member of the royal family to lose his titles? We'll discuss that with his biographer next.
you mentioned his subsidiary titles a moment ago,
Yes.
Earl of Inverness, Baron Killyleagh,
Yes.
in County Down. Now, in 2022, all those people acted against Prince Andrew. The Duke of York took away his freedom of the city of York. The city of Inverness said he should be deprived of titles. The same happened in Killyleagh in Northern Ireland, in County Down. Again, there were feelings there that he should no longer have that title. So this has been quite long-standing.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Following the multiple scandals surrounding Prince Andrew, should Prince Harry be the next member of the royal family to lose his royal titles? Let's get the views of Prince Harry's biographer, one of the finest royal authors in the country, Angela Levin. Angela, good morning.
Good morning. Very nice of you to say that.
Well, listen, it's 100% true, and you know Harry intimately well, having been his biographer, and you've spent a lot of time with him when you wrote that book, and I know that you've told us in the past that he's a completely different human being to the one that you knew. Do you think he'll be looking over his shoulder at the moment as the Prince Andrew crisis grows?
I think he'll be scared, very, very scared. I mean, he knows he's not being very well behaved towards his father and the rest of the royal family, but I think he will. But I think the way he will deal with it is to be more and more nasty, because he wants to be powerful. And I think that it will make him more aggressive. I think in a way they're not as bad as Andrew and Sarah, but I think that they need to know that this is danger land now, and they just better stop being rude and just get on and not keep on fighting his father for everything. I mean, the one thing to say he's desperate to see him is desperate, and that King Charles makes a space to see him, and then he's not going to bother anymore for several months because he's going to court, because he still won't give in and he wants to have 24/7 protection. So, you know, it's very difficult, and my feeling is that Meghan's making it particularly worse for him. He doesn't know if she loves him still or she doesn't. I think it's all very stressful.
Indeed. Now, Prince Andrew has relinquished his title of Duke of York because of the disrepute that he's brought to the royal family. Well, you could lay the same accusation at the door of Harry.
No, I don't think you can. I mean, he's not going round having sex with young girls. And I think that that is absolutely disgraceful. We don't know anything about his behaviour like that with Harry, but we do know that Andrew is a disgrace. I was reading today, and if I can just tell you that in the book that Virginia Guivra is coming out about her, and she said, you know, she said that she had 3 times. Andrew had sex with her, but this is really terrible. She had a incursion when there was a medical and she was very, very ill about it, and she lost a baby. And she said that Epstein told me I'd had a miscarriage because there was 6 other girls at the same place, and he never wore a condom. Neither did any of the men that Maxwell trafficked to me.
Now, these are devastating and truly horrific allegations. This forthcoming book by the late Virginia Giuffre is being published next week. We've seen some headlines, but as you pointed out there, potentially far worse to come for Prince Andrew. Worth stressing, as you will understand, Angela, that the former Duke of York, Prince Andrew, vigorously denies these allegations, including the anecdote that you've just referenced. But where do we go from here? Has King Charles done enough to quell this now?
No, I don't think so. I know that they've been very, very quick. The royal have been very quick about this, and I think it's because they know that there's going to be heaps of material coming from America, which make him sound, 10 times worse. But I think maybe they're not realising that Prince or Duke, it doesn't make so much difference to the general public. And I think they need to get rid of Prince. Apparently it will take a year because it has to go to Parliament. And so it should. I mean, they can speed it up. Their father is the king, and he should say, you've got to do it. Or he doesn't use the title and he waits till it's cancelled. But they haven't even cut off the Duke title. They've just moved it to one side. I think that's not right, because they can move it again and get it to be, he'll have it again. I don't want that to be any possibility.
Well, absolutely. I completely agree with that contention. What do you think that, what's next for Andrew? Should he vacate the Royal Lodge? Should he relinquish his Prince title? Should he go into exile?
Yes, I think he should go into exile, but I think he needs to go somewhere where we won't know what he's up to. He's not going to change his behaviour. It's too late for him to do that. He's in his 60s. But I think that he should get out the house as well, 30 rooms and all very smart. I don't think he should be allowed to stay there. He has signed a contract that means he can stay there until 2070 something. But I think that if the king pays the money extra that he should be paying, you can kick him out. I mean, it is just, you don't want him anywhere near. You don't want him walking about. You don't want him using horses there. You don't want him playing any of his games that he likes there. He shouldn't touch the grass. He shouldn't be able to do anything. It's getting worse and worse about him. And they can't say, well, let's just do this and then we'll feel a little bit better about it. No, I mean, I think it's beyond anything. It has to be completely wiped out because people are very, very angry, and they blame the royal family as well. And I think it's a shame because William's not like that, the King's not like that. It's too shocking.
So what he needs to do perhaps is be installed in a luxury estate in Switzerland or somewhere else?
No, he just should go way across the world and never come back.
I mean, Africa, where would he go? What would be an appropriate and, conceivable location for him?
Well, I couldn't care less where he goes as long as we don't have any contact with him, and as long as the press don't follow and see how he's behaving. I just think they should get away from each other. And as for his wife, it was absolutely appalling because I read earlier this morning that she took both children, 20 and 19, to go to America to welcome him out. It just was terrible. He came out of hurt. He was allowed out, and she brought the children with her.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine doing that? Epstein is a vile man, but when he was freed, she took them over there to say, welcome, now that you're out. How can you do that with your own children?
Indeed. Do you think that Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, will remain close? Of course, they cohabit in the Royal Lodge as we speak.
I doubt it, because he's cancelled her birthday party today. He's probably fed up with her. And here, she begged to borrow $100,000 to help her pay the small bills. Epstein paid off the debts, but she refused to pay any of the money back. So he was absolutely furious with her. So they are just too disgusting for words now, aren't they?
Well, they most definitely are. It's a devastating story. It threatens to rock the monarchy to its core. Angela, I do hope you'll join us again in the near future to continue to discuss this, because it's an ongoing crisis and there are going to be more headlines in the days, weeks and months ahead. My thanks to the revered royal biographer and broadcaster Angela Levin. Folks, a very big 2 hours to come. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? 0344 499 1000. Labour attack Nigel Farage. I'll bring you the latest on that one. Is Brexit really a worthy talking point now? Is Brexit the cause of our problems? Is Rachel Reeves right to blame that decision in 2016 for our current economic woes? We'll discuss that. And in just 2 minutes' time, the monologue is back. Dolan's dispatch, taking the knee, woke celebrities. You won't want to miss it. It might get me cancelled. Good.
Your Majesty, Melania and I are deeply grateful to you and Queen Camilla for your extraordinary graciousness. And to William and Kate, thank you so much. It's been so great being with you today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. The phrase special relationship, seen from American eyes, the word special does not begin to do it justice. We're joined by history and fate, and by love and language. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you.
Security remains the cornerstone of this special relationship. We have the deepest, most advanced defense relationship in the world.
As I said last night, the bond between our countries is like no other anywhere in the world. The United States and the United Kingdom have done more good on this planet than any two nations in human history.
We are working together to end the humanitarian catastrophe in the Middle East.
The one that I thought would be easiest would be because of my relationship with President Putin.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Top of the morning to you. It is 3 minutes past 8. This is Talk, the home of common sense. I'm Mark Dolan and you're listening to Talk Breakfast. A very, very busy 2 hours to come. It is the story which is shaking the monarchy to its very core. The Prince Andrew scandal goes from bad to worse. This could be the biggest threat to the royal family in living memory. Fresh bombshell reports this morning claim that the King's disgraced younger brother tried to enlist the Metropolitan Police to smear his late sex accuser, Virginia Giuffre. It's alleged the former Duke asked his taxpayer-funded bodyguards to dig the dirt on the woman whose explosive new book, out next week, promises to expose the full devastating truth about her relationship with him. So Andrew's already lost his royal titles, but the bad headlines keep coming. And the questions won't go away. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? 0344 499 1000. To make matters worse, new allegations have surfaced about Sarah Ferguson, Andrew's disgraced ex-wife. She's as bad as she is, as bad as he is. It's claimed that she was bankrolled by Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years and even took her daughters to celebrate his release from prison. Well, in just an hour's time, live in the studio, we'll be joined by the man that got this story in motion. It is Andrew Lowney, the author of the bombshell biography entitled All About Prince Andrew. This is what's opened up this can of worms, and he's live in the studio at 9, taking your calls, 0344 499 1000. And breaking this morning, Boris Johnson's former chief advisor has said that Nigel Farage will be Britain's next Prime Minister. So is the Reform UK leader the answer to Britain's problems? Can he deliver for the country? Is he the answer? Let me know your thoughts on that and we'll have a big head-to-head debate on that. So much to get through. 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. I'm taking your voice notes as well. It's the only story in town. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? Should he be stripped of his prince title? Should he be turfed out of the Royal Lodge? Should he be moved into exile? Should he go to Rwanda? Where would you send Prince Andrew? Let me know your thoughts. And as the saying goes, let's talk. But as always at this time on Weekend Breakfast, we begin with the Dolan Dispatch. Political correctness is a wicked ideology disguised as kindness and virtue. It is politically correct, for example, to support actual men with men's bodies and a men's physiology who think they're female, to smash records in women's sports, to be accommodated in women's prisons and rape crisis centres, to scoop Women of the Year awards, and to dress and undress in women's changing rooms. That is actually politically correct. Wow. It is politically correct to have open borders, which is an economic and societal disaster. It's politically correct. Wow. It is politically correct to say that Britain's history is shameful, ignoring the fact that we gave the world representative democracy, free speech, free markets, the rule of law, unprecedented investment in the poorest parts of the world, and we ended slavery. It is politically correct to divide people based upon their race. That's correct. Racial division is politically correct. The woke left, who are the practitioners of political correctness, support black-only audiences at theatre shows to avoid, and I quote, the white gaze as people of colour watch a show. University campuses have had designated rooms and areas where students of colour can be free of the presence of white people who make them feel unsafe in some way. And of course, it is politically correct to speak glibly of white privilege, which is ironic given the fact that if you're going to play the race card, you shouldn't really have an equal playing field. It is poor white boys who have the worst outcomes academically and who are the least likely to attend higher education. But of course, woke progressives who indulge in political correctness are very selective in their empathy. And the fact that even a homeless man sleeping rough with no qualifications to his name is still considered to be someone that has white privilege demonstrates that not only is this politically correct ideology wicked, it's mad, it's insane, and it makes no sense whatsoever. Which takes me to taking the knee. Now, the heroic footballer Dominic Calvert-Lewin at a Premier League match yesterday refused to take the knee. All the other players fell to the ground taking the knee, and he refused. Now, no doubt, he will face huge condemnation as a result. A bigot, a thug, a facilitator of racism. However, it's unlikely that Dominic Calvert-Lewin will face the full force of cancel culture, another mechanism by which the left enforce political correctness, because he is mixed race, which protects him from the progressive mob. Now, this guy is a great example of a British success story, a Leeds and England striker who was born in Sheffield, his father of African Caribbean heritage, his mother white British. Now, I don't know the specific reasons why he refused to take the knee yesterday, but when every other player on the pitch bowed to this politically correct stricture, it's not exactly a vote of confidence in the whole project, is it? Particularly from a man of mixed race heritage. One way or another, he is rejecting this kind of gesture politics. It's patently clear that he doesn't believe that rich athletes falling to their knees for a few seconds before a game will make a blind bit of difference. And this is a man who, as someone who is mixed race, may have suffered prejudice in his life, but he's chosen quite heroically not to take the knee. I would imagine because he thinks it is mad, because he thinks it doesn't make sense, and that it will achieve nothing. And of course, he would be absolutely right. And that's the point about political correctness. It's completely empty. It's about showing your allegiance to an ideology, not about making the world a better place. How ironic that those footballers who took the knee yesterday do so on the same week that the decision has been made to ban Jewish people from Israel attending a game at Aston Villa next month in Birmingham, England's second city. But no gesture for Jewish people yesterday at any of these matches. Jewish people who just 3 years ago faced the worst attack on their people since the Holocaust. And taking the knee, don't forget, is the brainchild of a toxic and discredited brand in Black Lives Matter, who in America are being treated like domestic terrorists in some circles. Black Lives Matter as an organisation mired in allegations of corruption and political violence. And yet the Premier League want to acknowledge this wicked and discredited organisation. Now, on this very channel, 5 years ago, on Talk, I was hosting the Drive Time show. And my guest at the time, on one particular occasion, was the brilliant footballer John Barnes, right? England legend, Watford, lots of other clubs as well. Right? John Barnes, a real gentleman. Now, John Barnes is a man of colour and a trailblazer in the sport, a British sporting icon. Now, taking the knee had just started then, and I asked him whether if he were playing now, he would take the knee. I said, John, would you take the knee? Absolutely not, he said. He said, Mark, it's an empty gesture which will do nothing to tackle racism. And that's the point about political correctness. It does nothing. That's the point about Gary Lineker, about Gary Neville, Richard Bacon and Sir Lenny Henry. That is the point about the Be Kind crowd on social media who are anything but. Once they've signalled their virtue and demonstrated what a lovely person they are, with a meaningless, empty gesture, it's job done for them. People taking the knee couldn't care less about racism. They don't care about racism. What they care about is brownie points within their social group. It's actually narcissism. It's egomania. Send out a message to the world, what a wonderful person I am. Taking the knee is utterly bizarre. And we've seen in previous tournaments baffled players, right? In international competitions, footballers in Africa and elsewhere, standing there looking confused as to why the England team are taking the knee whilst they limber up for the game. And here's the thing. Racism is the most wicked crime of humanity, an evil stain. But an empty gesture won't fix it. And I think it's quite easy to argue that the Black Lives Matter movement following the death of George Floyd in the United States hasn't helped matters. It's made it worse. Taking the knee has actually been incredibly divisive. It has set race relations back by 3 or 4 decades, which would explain the fans yesterday at the Premier League matches booing in the stands every time that these players take the knee. Why are they booing? Are they racist? No, they're not. They're booing because millionaire footballers are wagging their fingers at them when taking the knee. These fans, ordinary hard-working people, they struggle to pay their Sky Sports subscription. They struggle to pay for the football strips and the season tickets that enrich these privileged players, who are now lecturing them about race relations, even though your average footballer is as thick as mince, rich beyond their dreams and wildly out of touch with the real world. And here's the thing, they couldn't care less about racism. No one should kneel before anyone else in this world. It is wrong for one human being to kneel before another. We are born equal. And what we actually need in our society is equal access to education and opportunity. What we need is for all of us to be judged on the content of our character and not the colour of our skin. Which is why taking the knee is arguably a racist thing to do, because it infantilises a group within our society. Poor you, person of colour, you're such a victim and we've got to protect you and give you pity. All of that goes against the very spirit of the great Martin Luther King, whose dream was a colour-blind society. But those people who take the knee are the same people that see only skin colour. They're the real racists. Like the unconscious bias questionnaire inflicted on customers of the outdoor brand The North Face. Did you hear about this? It was a couple of years ago. The North Face, who do the expensive Gore-Tex jackets, they said, we'll give you a discount if you fill out a unconscious bias form, right? You get a discount. And people were being tested on how prejudiced they were. One of the questions was, and I quote, how many people of colour have you seen in the countryside lately? Let me tell you, if you are out on a country walk and you're counting black people, I think you'll find you're probably the racist. Now, the expression politically correct first appeared in Soviet and Marxist circles in the early 20th century. It referred to loyalty to the party line. That is, holding opinions that were correct according to Marxist orthodoxy, even if they weren't actually true. Does that sound familiar? In this context, being politically correct meant being ideologically pure, conforming to whatever the so-called party decreed. And that's where we are today. Because we're meant to do things that make no sense, such as divisive gestures like taking the knee, like seeing skin colour when we should simply see fellow Brits as fellow human beings, like saying one group in society is weaker and more worthy of pity than another, requiring positive discrimination or policies like diversity, equity and inclusion, which are not just racist, but frankly, illegal too. Political correctness, or woke as it's known these days, is counterproductive. It doesn't work. It is harmful and it makes no sense. But George Orwell called it in his dystopian novel about 1984, all those years ago. And here's the killer line. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final most essential command. Taking the knee is divisive. It's counterproductive and it's wrong. Taking the knee is taking the P. 03444991000. Your reaction. What do you make of this striker, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, for not taking the knee yesterday? He's receiving brickbats online for it. But do you not think we need to scrap this gesture politics, which I think makes matters worse? Let me know your thoughts. Especially let me know if you don't agree. Send a text with the word talk and your message to 87222. Don't forget, Prince Andrew's biographer, Andrew Lowney, live in the studio at 9 o'clock. He wrote the book that opened this royal can of worms, and he'll be taking your calls. But next up, Dominic Cummings, Boris Johnson's former chief advisor, the genius behind Brexit, has now gone online and he said that Nigel Farage will be Britain's next Prime Minister. So if that's true, will he be a good one? We'll debate that next.
You mentioned his subsidiary titles a moment ago, yes. Earl of Inverness, Baron Killyleagh, yes. In County Down. Now, in 2022, all those people acted against Prince Andrew. The Duke of York took away his freedom of the city of York. The city of Inverness said he should be deprived of titles. The same happened in Killyleagh in Northern Ireland, in County Down. Again, there were feelings there that he should no longer have that title. So this has been quite long-standing.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Taking the knee is divisive, counterproductive, and wrong. Taking the knee is taking the P. That is the main headline from today's Dolan's Dispatch. Let me have your reaction, 03444991000. Is it time to scrap this particular gesture? This is a voice note from Jay.
Morning, guys. Fantastic show as always. I just want to say ever since the Black Lives Matter taking the knee stuff, of course Black Lives Matter, everyone matters, and everyone should feel safe and be able to go about their business. Unfortunately, our Jewish friends don't at the moment, which is absolutely sad. In the Western world, everyone should feel safe and everyone should be dealt with the same way. But unfortunately, we don't have that. And what I'd like to say on this matter is leave politics out of sports. People work their jobs, 5 a.m., 5 p.m, Monday to Friday. They go to football, they go to boxing, they go to the UFC, the golf, the darts, to get away from reality and lose their minds for a couple of hours, not thinking about work, not thinking about taxes going up. Just leave it out. We don't need it. It's time now to get rid of all that and stop using sports to broadcast and get all your political messages out. It's awful.
Powerful call, voice note there. Thank you so much for that, Jay. Well, in the studio to debate all the big political stories of the day, I'm delighted to welcome broadcaster, former BBC legend Alex Dyke, and the top political commentator Rory Boyle. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. We'll get our teeth into the big political stories of the day. Rory Boyle, has taking the knee had its day?
Well, just to respond to that voice note there that you just played, I do understand some of what that listener was speaking about, people obviously go to sport for escapism and to, forget about their jobs. But the one thing I will say in response to that is, yes, I understand that point, but unfortunately, we live in a society where we can't just escape racism or politics when we feel like it. So, for example, we have seen racism in sport throughout history. I mean, listen, I'm more of a ginger spice than a sporty spice, so I'm no sport expert, okay? But
you're a gorgeous strawberry blonde.
Thank you, babes. But I remember there was a football match where there were three players playing for England, three of which were black. They all missed their penalty, the final penalties, and they got huge racist abuse online. Terrible. There'll be some of your listeners who know who I'm talking about. I don't know these players because I'm not a football fan.
It was outrageous.
So, in regard to that, I don't think we can just tap out of Black Lives Matter or any sort of political or social issue. Taking the knee specifically, I understand why people feel it's had its day. I understand why they don't like it, but I don't agree with we just need to completely leave all of this out of sports.
Well, we had something before, which was kick racism out of football, which I think was a very uniting thing and a great message. But I don't know whether millionaire footballers falling to their knee for a few seconds before a game is going to tackle those wicked people who sent those racist remarks after England fell out of the World Cup.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree that it can seem performative, and I think there are many people who probably question what the end goal is, so I do understand why it hasn't gone down well with a lot of people.
What do you think, Big Alex Dyke?
Well, I think that you make a good point. I agree with everything that Jay said.
By the way, you can actually say you don't have to kneel, you can stand up now.
I agree with everything that Jay said in that voice note, and I also agree with what Mark said in his brilliant monologue that no one should take the knee for anybody. And you talk about those black players who miss the penalties being booed and hissed out like it's some pantomime, and that is disgraceful. But you have to remember that's not because they're black, that's because those football fans that were doing the booing are thick, because they were the same kind of people that shouted at David Beckham many years ago, "We hope your children die of cancer."
Yeah, and your wife is a you-know-what.
Yeah, so this is nothing to do with them. Well, it may have something to do with them being black, but those kind of fans, and I know they're the minority that can make a very loud noise, they can ruin it for everybody, whether you're black, white, straight, gay, or whatever.
They can, but sadly, those players' race should not come into it, and it did in those instances. They were all sent emojis of monkeys on Twitter, which frankly, yes, the white players do get abuse, as you just mentioned. I remember all that stuff with Beckham.
Motivated.
But it's not racially motivated. It might be about their wife or kids, which is disgusting.
Well, and that's just as bad. Say something about the colour of someone's skin, and that's bad. Say something, doesn't matter what colour they're, about their wife or their children. To me, that is worse. I can understand why David Beckham didn't launch himself into the crowd and rip their throats out, because that's what I would have felt like doing, and he would obviously been clearly outnumbered and it wouldn't have been a good move. But I just think some of these people are so wicked.
Listen, let's get now on to politics and the politics of the day, and a bombshell developing story, Rory, and it's Dominic Cummings, Boris Johnson's former advisor, and of course the man behind the Vote Leave campaign, which was very successful with our departure from the EU in 2016. He has made a lot of big political calls over the years. He helped Boris Johnson to that 2019 landslide victory that no one saw coming. He now predicts that Nigel Farage will be Britain's next Prime Minister. Is he right?
I think he could be right. Listen, I'm not a Farage supporter, but I've obviously, like many people in this country, been giving a lot of thought to what's going on politically, how divided we are, how unhappy people are with Labour, how traditionally left-leaning voters are unhappy with Labour, as of course are the right. And you know, 10 years ago, let's cast our minds back maybe about 10 years ago, could we have predicted the success and rise of Trump? Could we have predicted how prominent Farage was going to become? I don't think I could have. And now, when I look to the future politically of this country, in the next few, maybe not in the next year do I see Farage taking the role of PM, but I certainly think by the time we have our next general election, it really looks like Reform and Farage are headed towards that victory. They are very strong in what they believe in. I think they have a clear vision for that party. And with a party like Labour, I currently don't really know what their for lack of a better phrase, their sort of end goal or their motivations are for this country. There's been so many scandals, there's been so much alleged infighting over the last months and year that I wonder if we really are headed towards this. And I believe we are. Maybe not in a year. I think in a year's pushing it a little bit, but he would say that, wouldn't he? You know, he likes to stir the pot a bit, so. Well,
so there you go. Alex, it's Nigel's to lose.
Yeah, and I think a big favour for Nigel is what's happening in America. So voters over here can see what Trump is doing in America, and a lot of people like what Trump's doing in America. People in Britain like it. They think he's getting, not everybody of course, but they think he's getting things done. And Nigel Farage is our version of Trump, as many people would see it. But Dominic Cummings has pointed out something we all know, that Nigel is a one-man band and he's got to build a top team, and he's got to do it quickly because there's local elections next year, and he can't go into government as a one-man band. Well, he could, but he would be stronger.
It wouldn't be successful.
No, he needs a good team around him. But because of his strong position on immigration, I think that's what would push him through.
Yeah, you know, that's the defining issue of this era, isn't it? I think the one thing you've been speaking about on this programme is Islamophobia, and now the Labour have changed the party. Is it to what's the phrase they're using?
Anti-Muslim hatred.
Anti-Muslim hatred, that's it. I mean, Farage, for all intents and purposes, has definitely come out with some anti-Muslim statements. I know he said on a news programme, I think it was in 2024, that a lot of young Muslims living in this country don't share British values, which many people took great offence to.
That's not anti-Muslim, is it?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, whether you or I agree with that, the point I'm trying to make is, so there's a lot of Muslims in this country, a lot. And, you know, there's white Muslims in this country as well, who we don't really speak about a lot in the media. And Muslims have very traditionally voted for the Labour Party. I think in 2019, it was estimated like over 80% of Muslim voters were supporting Labour. I think Farage does need to think about that. He does think about how he is going to take those votes, because there's also been a lot of data to show that since Labour have been in power, there's been significant fall.
But there's a lot more people in Britain who are not Muslim.
Yeah, so, there are.
So if Nigel Farage concentrates on them, he could still win it with a landslide victory.
He could. I suppose the point that I'm making, though, is I think Nigel does need to be careful about some of the things that he says. I don't think he really cares, but I'm trying to look at it from the perspective of there are so many people who the Labour Party are losing right now. Where do they go? And I think if Reform are strategic about who they try and get on board, they're going to win it.
Trump is not careful. Yeah. And every other politician from every other party is Magnolia. But I tell you what, there's a lot in the papers today, Mark, about Tony Blair.
Yeah,
right?
we need to talk about that.
Imagine Boris coming back, Tony Blair coming back, up against Nigel Farage, that would be an election.
That would be explosive stuff, wouldn't it? Well, let's talk about the next election, because what about the Green Party? Right, they're on the rampage in the polls. Is the Green Party, the ultra-woke Green Party, about to become the biggest party of the left? Could they replace Labour? We'll discuss that next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
In a world exclusive, the man that opened the Prince Andrew can of worms, Andrew Lowney, the author of the devastating book entitled, is live in the studio at 9 a.m. You won't want to miss it. But first, with me in the studio, tackling the big political stories of the day, we have broadcaster Alex Dyke and political commentator Rory Boyle. And let's take a listen now to the new leader of the Green Party, Zach Polanski, talking about diversity and inclusion.
You know, I went to Handsworth in Birmingham the other day. It was absolutely appalling. It's as close as I've come to a slum in this country.
Add lots of Norman French to some Angles, Saxon, Jutes and Vikings, then stir vigorously. Make some hot Chileans, cool Jamaicans, serve with justice and enjoy.
That's an interesting video. It sounds like he wants to cook people of colour, put them all in a big pot and melt them. Oh. First of all, Rory, I mean, this is interesting for you because I guess it's fair to say you identify on the political left. The Green Party are coming for those Labour votes, aren't they?
They are. Oh, God, that video, you're right. It was giving cannibalism, wasn't it? What was going on there? Yeah, they are. I mean, it's funny, you were saying earlier that you think all the major politicians at the moment are Magnolia. Correct me if that's not exactly what you said, but I do think Polanski has said he's promising to pick fights going forward, and I think that perhaps the Greens are trying to, you know, change their tack in terms of, I think they've been seen as sort of eco-warriors, haven't they? And that video didn't exactly do much to dispel maybe some of the negative stereotypes around the party. But I don't know if they will be coming for a lot of votes. I think for those of us on the left who have traditionally voted Labour like myself, I think because for many reasons, which I'm sure we all know, we feel quite let down by Labour at the moment and don't have a lot of faith in them as a party, there is a big question mark over who we would vote for now at the next general election. But videos like that and rhetoric like that don't exactly inspire me.
Poor Alex is triggered. You need smelling salts or something.
I like the idea behind the video, but the way it was executed in that awful, simpering way. And actually what he's done is he's taken an idea from a song called Melting Pot by Blue Mink, which has never played on the radio now because it's been banned because it's seen as being awkward to listen to. But it went on and on and on, and I'm thinking, mate, this is social media. You're meant to get in and get your message on quick. The video went on and on and on and on because he was so scared that he might leave somebody out. That's not going to do them any favours at all.
Although he's talking about wealth taxes, he's talking about net zero, he's talking about the tackling inequality, the redistribution of wealth. That's proper socialism, isn't it?
It is, but when you look at, I agree with what you just said, when you look at something like that and it being so cringy, that's going to turn you off before you even get to those issues. The motive behind a video like that, I do believe that we are a melting pot in this country, and I do love to see inclusivity and diversity coming from a political party. But yes, while those are all important issues, I don't think that's going to inspire anyone.
How that video got past anybody at the party? Who said, yeah, we'll post this. This looks good. This is going to do us some good.
But just thinking about it from one other perspective very briefly, if we look at, let's say, somebody like Trump or Farage, who do say provocative things, who do make statements and put out videos online that get people talking, perhaps the motivation behind that was thinking, well, this is going to do numbers. People are going to be talking about the Green Party. They are going to share this video. And is it better to be in the conversation than not in it at all? I don't know.
I think the point you're missing, with the greatest respect, is people may get aggravated by Trump or by Nigel Farage, but they don't. They're not laughing at them because they think they're weak or stupid. They might not like them.
I'm definitely laughing at Trump because I think he's stupid. 100% I am.
Okay. Isn't this guy Zach Blansky wrong to talk about the melting pot? Because the melting pot is based on the idea of multiculturalism, right? And it's a very contentious political idea, and it's the concept that people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different religions will all sort of blend together in a wonderful way, in a homogenous way, in which we become one society. That's not the Britain we're living in, is it, Rory?
It's not the Britain we're living in, but I don't think that he's wrong to talk about the melting pot, because I do like...
But it's a lie, isn't it?
But I like...
Or a myth. I mean, I like the idea as well.
Yeah.
It looks great on paper. It looks great on paper. And the line in the song is a lovely line. And it says, we should all end up being coffee-coloured people. And
Do you mind singing it for me?
I'm not going to sing it for you,
Because then I think that could go viral.
I'm not going to sing it for you.
Give us a song.
It's a lovely line, but we know... We need to get to the point where we say, OK, look, certain cultures will never mix side by side. No one's really talking about that. Everyone's saying, right, let's let everybody in and we'll let everybody have a slice of the pie. But the cultures don't mix. They should do, and it would be lovely if they did, but they don't.
And it's why you have ghettoised communities in which people don't speak the language and sometimes follow their own laws.
But don't you think that, perhaps, yes, there are certain cultures that will live side by side but never mix. But I think that our end goal as a society should be that somebody from a different culture to you or I can live next door to us. And yeah, we might not mix and become best friends, but we should all be able to be tolerant of everybody.
Well, we do that with Little Italy and we do that with Chinatown. But the thing is, the cultures are more similar to the United Kingdom.
Yes, and you yourself, Rory, if it's not presumptuous of me, I believe you're an Irishman.
I am.
And, we've had Irish immigration into the UK for decades. My family are Irish as well.
Yeah.
And that's a successful integration story. And that's not to demonise folk who haven't integrated so readily, but it just puts paid to the idea that we are a big melting pot. And it is a political issue that has to be addressed at some point of how we become one nation and one community. Do you not think?
I agree with that, but I also think people like Farage and Trump, who make lots of divisive statements, aren't doing any favours to the UK by that. Yes, that video we just saw from the Green Party is quite cringy, and I don't think it's the right tack to take, but I also think making inflammatory statements about lots of minority groups, as Trump and Farage do, is also not the way forward.
Fascinating conversation. Next up, the scandal of illegal immigration, the extraordinary cost, and now millionaire property owners boasting about the amount of cash that they're making from homes of multiple occupancy. We'll discuss that scandal, plus how do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew. Your calls, don't go anywhere.
You mentioned his subsidiary titles a moment ago, yes. Earl of Inverness, Baron Killyleagh, yes. in County Down. Now, in 2022, all those people acted against Prince Andrew. The Duke of York took away his freedom of the city of York. The city of Inverness said he should be deprived of titles. The same happened in Killyleagh in Northern Ireland, in County Down. Again, there were feelings there that he should no longer have that title. So this has been quite long-standing.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
So has taking the knee had its day? That was the topic of today's Dolan's Dispatch. Mike in West Yorkshire. Good morning, Mark. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is a hero for refusing to take the knee. The courage not taking the knee was amazing to see. Steve in Cambridge, by the way, on the Green Party. Good morning, Mark. I have to wonder at the level of mental health of anyone voting for the Green Party. It beggars belief that they even exist. Well, I think what's going to happen Steve, is I think they're going to win a few seats at the next election. If there were a hung parliament, they could hold the balance of power. Be afraid, be very afraid. With me in the studio reacting to the big stories of the day, we have the ex-BBC radio legend Alex Dyke and top political commentator Rory Boyle. And how about this? Property owners, including one filling homes from Dubai, are sharing tips on TikTok and YouTube about how to earn government-backed income every month. Landlords providing asylum accommodation are flaunting their passive government-backed income on social media. This according to an exclusive from The Times. Owners of houses in multiple occupation, HMOs, increasingly used to accommodate migrants awaiting decisions on their claims, are sharing tips and tricks on how to profit at the hands of the British taxpayer. Alex Dyke.
Well, at the end of the day, although this story looks bad, these people are landlords who are in it for a profit. And being a landlord is not an easy job, especially these days with all the red tape and legislation. And it annoys me to think that these people are going on TikTok, but I understand why they do. At the moment, we've got 66,500 asylum seekers living in this kind of accommodation across the UK. And the truth is, with most British people, you're going to hate this, Rory.
Go on.
So hang on to the desk.
All right.
Most British people don't want these asylum seekers here. They don't want them in hotels because that aggravates them, because that has its own challenges.
Yeah.
They certainly don't want them near them in HMOs. I think what most people would like is them to be in clean, safe, warm refugee camps. And because if you're fleeing war and you are afraid for the life of you and your wife and your children, then if you get to France or the United Kingdom and you get to a nice, warm, safe refugee camp, that would be heaven, wouldn't it? That would be heaven on earth if you're really fleeing something. And I think a lot of British people then wouldn't have a problem with children's entertainers going in and entertaining the children in the camp. We hear about these asylum seekers who get free DJ lessons and driving lessons and football tickets, and I could see why that aggravates people. But if we were going into the camps to look after these people, that's if there's any women and children in the camps.
They're a precious minority, aren't they? Here's a killer question, though. Clearly, most people consider the use of hotels unedifying and wrong. But if you had specific sort of refugee asylum seeker accommodation, would these people have liberty, or would they be detained within those locations?
Well, I think that they should be detained within those locations.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that certainly a lot of viewers and listeners will agree with. What do you think about this, Rory?
That actually didn't enrage me as much as you might have thought it did. But I really don't like the boasting on TikTok. I really don't like how brazen this is. I think what frustrates me as somebody who has lived in London a long time and has rented here, and has many friends who are now trying to buy and are also renting, seeing this kind of behaviour from landlords, I think is wrong. I actually lived a while ago now in southeast London in a house, a student house, and next door to us there were migrants living next door. Many migrants in this house, definitely more people than it would have been safe to have live in one home. And they were, I'm not trying to characterise all migrants as being like this, but these particular people we've lived next door to were very noisy, were drunk in the garden all the time, vomiting in the garden. It was really chaotic and awful, and I found that very uneasy to live with. And frankly, I think that's happening a lot all throughout the UK. I think landlords are taking advantage of this situation, putting people in overcrowded housing, profiting off them hugely. I saw it firsthand. I lived it. I'm not anti people coming to this country who are genuinely seeking refuge, but I don't know what that situation was there, but it was very troubling.
It's a big question for the left, which is, if you have entered the country illegally, should you be detained?
I think if you've entered the country illegally, you probably should be detained. I mean...
And you know that's an unfashionable view on the left.
No, I know it's an unfashionable view.
That could get you cancelled.
Well, listen, here's the thing. So my mom actually has worked on the US-Mexico border for several years, working with migrants and helping them gain genuine asylum. And she's worked at people who have literally travelled from the depths of South America right to the North American border, and she's told me lots of stories of people who are genuinely seeking refuge. I mean, we don't have enough time to go into it, but stories that would make even the most person on the hard right eyes water. They are genuine asylum seekers. When somebody is coming over here simply for a better life, but they're not fleeing their home country for what I imagine we would all consider a legitimate reason, that does bother me. And I don't think that's an extreme view.
Does removing Prince Andrew's titles settle the matter of this disgraced royal? Anna is in Cheshire. Good morning, Anna. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Hello, can you hear me?
Anna, I can hear you loud and clear. First of all, what is your reaction to the Prince Andrew scandal? The fact that he's given up his titles, but the bad headlines keep coming.
I think we're getting lost in the headlines, to be honest. At the point in time where, we're questioning the relevancy of our monarchy, we have an opportunity to globally show the rest of the world what integrity actually means. And we haven't seemed to learn a lesson from Jimmy Savile and Gary Glitter, etc. I don't doubt that there is more complicated stuff, belying all of this,
yeah.
China spy, all the geopolitical stuff, but it doesn't really matter. The Queen paid an unconfirmed amount of something like $12 million.
12 million quid, yeah.
Which, how does that play to the general public? I wouldn't be spending $12 million if there wasn't a shred of guilt in there. So we have a monarchy who they managed to found a church, and split from the Catholic Church. Our current monarch married his, long-term love before Princess Diana.
His mistress, yeah.
Yeah, they can do whatever needs to be done. And I think for everybody's integrity, they need to stand up and be counted here and strip him of his title. I don't think he should be exiled. Why should somebody else's problem?
Yeah. No, which poor country would we send him to? What about that title of Prince? It would probably require an act of Parliament to remove it. Do you think that would be the right thing to do?
Absolutely.
Wow.
In some respects, I think maybe I'm of a generation where I just don't see why the debate is even happening. It's selling newspapers and it's making headlines, and money makes the world go round. But let's be clear here. There's no smoke without fire. Hush money was paid, and I think it's about time for our monarchy to actually stand up and show what matters to them: integrity, honesty. He lied to the nation. He lied to the nation with, the Newsnight interview, the BBC interview. So, yeah.
Anna, what an incredibly powerful call, and you've made some really important points. And I think one of the points that Anna is making, Rory, is that if the royals are not more open and honest about what happened, if there isn't more accountability amid what I think Anna feels is a cover-up, this could really, really rock the monarchy, could threaten its future.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we have a huge problem in this country with violence, specifically often sexual violence against young women and girls. I don't think that's been taken seriously in this country for many years. Look at the grooming scandals that we've been talking about a lot lately.
Misogyny on the internet.
Misogyny on the internet, and, this incel culture amongst young men. I know these are all separate issues to Andrew, but it frankly does tie into a bigger issue. And I think if we do strip someone of their titles, essentially publicly shame them and remove them from the royal family and admit what actually happened, that can only serve the royals well.
Most definitely. How damaging do you think this Prince Andrew story could be for the monarchy?
Well, it's the biggest story around for a long, long time. This is a story of royals, sex, orgies, money, and crime and international travel. I would just want to put the brakes on this if I can, Mark, and this may not be popular, and I don't disagree with what Rory and all of your callers and you have said today, but he's not Jimmy Savile. He's not Gary Glitter. And he had a very privileged life. The pressure was off Andrew because the pressure was on Charles as he was growing up. He was a Falklands hero who was a helicopter pilot who went to rescue casualties in the Falklands. He came back. Do you remember that famous picture of him with the rose in his teeth as Randy Andy? Everybody was happy with him being Randy Andy. And all I want to say is, do you think, and I'm not saying this is right, but we know what's happened with Epstein and we know how nasty it was. Do you think that Andrew, being Andrew, who's unable to read the room properly, thought, I'm just going to go and have a great time with some young women. I'm divorced, I'm not married to Fergie, I'm a prince. He doesn't live in the real world anyway. So I just wonder if we are being a little harsh on Andrew.
That's interesting, and of course he's been convicted of no crimes.
Exactly.
Has he been thrown under the bus? Because also don't forget that Rory, he has done the right thing and relinquished his royal titles, put family first.
But that was because of huge pressure that was put under him to do so. He did not want to do that to begin with. And anybody who has any sort of question mark over any of this, there's a fantastic documentary, the name of which escapes me now, on Netflix, about Epstein and his crimes. You need to watch that and you'll not be feeling that way about Epstein. Yes, he's not...
I don't feel that way about Epstein.
Yeah.
No way. I'm just saying Andrew went into that world probably not realising, if you're going to defend him. It's just the other side of the coin.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think for me, he's got what's coming to him. I'm sick of hearing about him. Good riddance. Hope this is the last we ever have to see of him in public life or think about him, because he's a stain on the royals and I can't stand him.
Was that documentary Jeffrey Epstein Filthy Rich?
Yes, it was.
There you go.
Brilliant
highly recommended. Highly recommended is Rory Boyle, excellent political commentator, and former BBC radio legend Alex Dyke. Chaps, come in and see us again soon. Really interesting conversation. Next up, in a world exclusive, the man who opened the Prince Andrew can of worms, the author of Entitled, the book that's had devastating implications for both Andrew and the monarchy. Andrew Lowney, live in the studio next, and we're taking your calls. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? 0344 499 1000. All of that to come. A very busy hour. Don't go anywhere.
Your Majesty, Melania and I are deeply grateful to you and Queen Camilla for your extraordinary graciousness. And to William and Kate, thank you so much. It's been so great being with you today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. The phrase special relationship, seen from American eyes, the word special does not begin to do it justice. We're joined by history and fate, by love and language. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you.
Security remains the cornerstone of this special relationship. We have the deepest, most advanced defense relationship in the world.
As I said last night, the bond between our countries is like no other anywhere in the world. The United States and the United Kingdom have done more good on this planet than any two nations in human history.
We are working together to end the humanitarian catastrophe in the Middle East.
The one that I thought would be easiest would be because of my relationship with President Putin, but he's let me down. He's really let me down.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Top of the morning, it is 3 minutes past 9. I'm Mark Dolan and this is Talk Breakfast. A big hour to come. It's the story which is shaking the monarchy to its core. The Prince Andrew scandal goes from bad to worse, and this could be the biggest threat to the royal family in living memory. Fresh bombshell reports this morning claim that the King's disgraced younger brother tried to enlist the Metropolitan Police to smear his late sex accuser, Virginia Giuffre. It's alleged the former Duke asked his taxpayer-funded bodyguards to dig up the dirt on the woman whose explosive new book, out next week, promises to expose the full devastating truth about her relationship with him. Now, he's already lost his titles, but the bad headlines keep coming and the questions won't go away. So how do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? Should he be stripped of the title Prince? Should he be evicted from the Royal Lodge accommodation? What would your answer be? 0344 499 1000. Plus, to make matters worse, new allegations have surfaced about Sarah Ferguson, Andrew's disgraced ex-wife. It's claimed that she was bankrolled by Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years and even took her daughters to celebrate his release from prison after his conviction for child trafficking. It's a massive story, a huge headache for the King. Has he done enough? Let me know your views. Talk. Send your message to 87222 in the word talk, or call me on 0344 499 1000. Kieran is taking your calls. A very big hour to come. Later in the show, Dominic Cummings, Boris Johnson's former chief advisor, has said that Nigel Farage will be Britain's next Prime Minister. So is he ready for power? Is he the answer to Britain's problems? I'll be asking the country's best-known political double act, the Hamiltons, live at 9:30. So a busy 3 hours. Get your thoughts in, get your calls in as well. And as the saying goes, let's talk. And to do just that, joining me live in the studio is the man whose book entitled set this entire story in motion. Of course, this book is now going to provably become a historic document that reflects not just the downfall of Prince Andrew, but potentially a fatal impact on the monarchy itself. Entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York is out now, and it's got the country talking, and it's got Prince Andrew in hot water. Its author is Andrew Lowney. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
So first of all, you've been working on this book for how long now?
Well, it took me 4 years of research, and I approached about 3,000 people, about 300 talked to me. So, and it took a lot of time to get a lot of these people to go on the record, but I think a lot of them were pretty appalled by the way that Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson had operated, had got away with it, had been protected by the palace. And I suppose I then got these senior diplomats and naval officers to talk, which was great.
You faced an unprecedented wall of resistance on the part of the Yorks in your pursuit of the truth, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I mean, I approached them originally to see if they would cooperate, not because it was not going to be authorised, but because I felt it was important that they should be allowed to help shape the narrative.
So you approached Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson?
Yes, I had a meeting with Sarah Ferguson. She decided not to cooperate. She decided, in fact, to tell all her friends not to talk to me, and my publishers got letters, legal letters, warning them that they were being watched, what they put in the book. I was told that my social media would be monitored, and that attempts were made basically to intimidate me.
So you felt quite threatened by the Yorks, really, in your pursuit of the truth?
Yes, they clearly had something to hide, and that's what proved to be the case.
How did that encounter with Sarah Ferguson, the then Duchess of York, go? What did you make of her in the flesh?
Well, it was actually the day that Andrew settled with Virginia Giuffre, so she disappeared she was in my house, and she disappeared for a few minutes to sort of bathroom to take the call. She arrived with one of her products, which she sells to put on your face, but we found it was far more effective on our saucepans.
Okay. Yeah.
And she was, I mean, she was very charming. She got down on her knees and put her arm around my waist and tried to say that the photograph was faked and all sorts of things.
Oh, do you mean the infamous photograph of Andrew and Virginia Giuffre with
exactly yes
with Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell in the background?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, so they were really trying to sort of shape the narrative in that sense at that stage. But she was, you know, she was perfectly friendly, but clearly she didn't want to get involved.
I've started the book. It's a page-turner. I had to cancel my engagements for the afternoon because it's so dramatic and it reads like the most compelling piece of fiction. Of course, it's actually true. And it's got everything, the story, hasn't it? Without wishing to trivialise the serious implications of what Andrew may or may not have done, it does have everything. Sex, money, royalty, power.
Yes, and I think also it's a sort of black comedy. It's a tragic comedy. It's about a fall from grace from people because of their faults. But I think just the things that they do are so bizarre sometimes, and the extravagance and the ridiculous nature of the deference towards them, I think, you know, is quite interesting.
Yes, indeed. The King seems to be quite widely respected as king. I don't really feel he's put a foot wrong since taking to the throne. Anne is admired as a very hard-working, no-nonsense royal family member. Then you've got Edward, who, apart from, you know, a couple of business interests that went sideways, he's not really done too much wrong. Where did Elizabeth and Philip go so badly wrong with Andrew? Why is he the perceived black sheep of the family?
Well, it's a good question, because I mean, clearly his activities have undermined the good work the other members of the royal family do. He's just very different in temperament. I think he was spoilt as a child in a way the others weren't. He was given no boundaries. He knew he could get away with bad behaviour, and that's continued throughout his life. And the same has happened in the Navy, where he was over-promoted. It's happened, you know, at school. And so he sort of, you know, knows that he's invincible, or thinks he is. And Sarah's exactly the same. I mean, she started off as a sweet middle-class girl, a little vulgar, but she then realised that she too could, you know, she was in the sweetie shop and she could go wild.
Most definitely. And she has proved to be, as the book demonstrates, a relentless liability for Andrew and for the royal family. I mean, the two of them together, we need the equivalent of the blind leading the blind, but it was the two of them have held hands and walked into hell.
I call them Bonnie and Clyde. I mean, they are partners in crime. I mean, they're joined together. They're both narcissists. In some ways, you know, if he had married, let's say, Koo Stark, it might be a different story now. Yeah. But I think they just helped each other, and that's what's kept that bond going. It's, you know, the happiest divorced couple is actually a criminal enterprise.
And one thing, an abiding theme of the book appears to be that both Andrew and Sarah are highly self-destructive. I mean, almost all of this, they are the authors.
Absolutely, and I mean, people have warned them time and time again not to do things. So, for example, like the Newsnight interview, and they've just ignored it and gone ahead. So, you know, in some ways it's difficult to feel sorry for them, except that they do self-sabotage them the whole time. She's sort of like Lazarus. She rises each time. She goes on Oprah. We may remember the sting by the News of the World in 2010, where she was caught selling access to Andrew. Not, I have to say, the first time that had happened. And yet somehow she comes through. She plays the ditzy girl, and everyone thinks she's a bit of a victim, and off she goes again.
And it seems to be that his greatest error of judgment was his friendship with the now disgraced billionaire paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who took his own life in prison under, I would argue, slightly murky circumstances. What did his friendship with Epstein tell us about Andrew's character and his motivations?
Well, it was described as the relationship between a rattlesnake and a mouse. But I think for Andrew, he thought he was getting access to useful contacts. That's what he said at Newsnight. He clearly had an access to lots and lots of women. And of course, Epstein paid a lot of Fergie's bills. I mean, Fergie claimed there were only £15,000, but my information was it was more like £2 million. And we've got accounts in the papers today talking about the long financial relationship between the two. And for Epstein, of course, it gave him status. You know, there he was in Balmoral and Windsor, and access to some very useful people. Andrew was actually taking Epstein on some of these taxpayer-funded flights as a special trade envoy, and actually helping Epstein do business when he was meant to be promoting British trade.
Did Andrew suffer from what Harry has complained about, which is the curse of being the spare?
Well, I mean, he was second in line to the throne until the Falklands. I don't really buy that. I mean, because, you know, clearly Anne and Edward do their bit. They support the monarchy. Prince Philip, after all, you know, walked a few steps behind the Queen all his life. So they can do it. I think he just thought he could get away with it. You know, he was spoilt, he was greedy, he saw opportunities, and I'm afraid people turned a blind eye. I think the shocking thing for me was that the Queen knew about his activities and let it pass. When people came and complained at the palace, diplomats and others, even MI6 came to her with complaints about bribes he was taking. She did absolutely nothing about it. And the palace actually tried to shut down the Giuffre story by threatening ABC television with no more access to the royals if they actually ran their investigation. So I think there's some responsibility back at Buckingham Palace for this. It's not just Andrew.
Was Prince Andrew, in your estimation, has he been predominantly motivated by money and sex?
Yes.
And where does that come from, do you think?
Well, I mean, his father was a pretty promiscuous character. I mean, her mother and father also had lots and lots of affairs.
Yeah, I mean, Major Ronald Ferguson was a serial philanderer, wasn't he?
He was, and I mean, and Susan Brantes had an affair with Prince Philip. I mean, that must have been a strange experience to know that, you know, when you marry the daughter. But I think also Andrew had always been drawn to rich people, even at school. The Narcos family were at Gordonston, he was drawn to them. Sarah was used to the jet-set life after she began to live with Paddy McNally. And they just learnt never to you know, turn right on a plane.
And the two of them were, Sarah and Andrew, remarkably profligate at the expense of UK taxpayers. Incredibly, as you mentioned earlier, greedy, just very greedy people. I mean, can you give us some examples?
Well, I mean, certainly profligate in the sense of and with taxpayers' money, in that Andrew would commandeer private jets for quite short journeys, or helicopters, all at the taxpayers' expense, which seemed to be someone let these things through. But the extravagance was, you know, flying on Concorde. She would send a secretary on Concorde to just deliver a bit of paper to someone. She would organise huge banquets and then actually just eat kettle crisps. She would spend huge sums of money entertaining people, opened very expensive bottles of champagne which were left unopened. I mean, she had a huge staff, I mean, including one person just to wrap up presents and a couple who just went round picking up dog mess.
It's truly remarkable, some of the anecdotes. She'd have courtiers make an amazing meal and, as you say, not eat it, have a bowl of pasta, eat some crisps. It's pretty wild. Mail on Sunday today, 2 royal bombshells. Epstein, they report, set Prince up with second sex abuse victim, and royal bombshell number 2, Andrew told the Met to dig the dirt on Virginia. Your reaction to that story suggesting that taxpayer-funded bodyguards were commanded by Andrew to find some dirt on this woman that accused him of serious, egregious activities?
Yes, well, I mean, you know, none of the police protection officers would talk. I know that when they raised objections, they were told that if they would like to go back on the beat in Brixton, that was certainly an option. So there was a lot of pressure. The PPOs tend to be Freemasons. It's a very closed group, and there's a very strong sense of omerta there. But certainly I raised questions with the Met about the investigations, did FOIs, and I got nowhere with them. They wouldn't tell me whether they investigated Andrew or not. I think Channel 4 and Virginia Giuffre, and I think even Di Davis, the former head of security, had raised questions with the Metropolitan Police that Andrew should be investigated for some of these perceived offences. And I think the whole thing went nowhere. No one was going to investigate a member of the royal family. The MPs 20 years ago were calling the National Crime Agency, saying that there were grounds to investigate Andrew. Again, nothing was done. It seems the royals are above the law. But that, I think, may change now. I think this new material today, you know, I think there are grounds on misconduct in public office. There are certainly grounds under data protection. And I do hope that now there will be a proper investigation into both of their activities, and particularly his time as Special Trade Envoy. I think one of the scandals is the government have not released the files for his time as the Trade Envoy, files which should be in the National Archives. I've put in hundreds of requests, and each one has been met with evasiveness and lies by the Foreign Office and the Department of Trade.
Is the Prince Andrew scandal now an existential threat to the monarchy? The author whose book started all of this in train, Andrew Lowney, the author of Entitled, stays with us, and that's next.
when he's giving interviews and says that, he understands that line collapses in about 30 seconds, and then he goes on to his real agenda, which is anti-Semitism, trying to stop a particular group of people from going to a football match, just as you have particular groups of people trying to cancel Jewish artists or put pressure on art centres or threatening them that if they don't cancel those people, they're going to smash their windows or they're going to have a huge amount of hassle.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York is the devastating best-selling book which really opened up the Prince Andrew can of worms. It's a bestseller and everyone's talking about it. And of course, since its publication, the Duke of York is no longer, and he is simply Prince Andrew. But should he face further sanctions? Well, with me in the studio is Andrew Lowning, the author of Entitled. Andrew, do you think the King has gone far enough in leaning on Andrew to relinquish the Duke of York and his membership of the Order of the Garter?
No, I don't. I don't think this is going to satisfy public disquiet about what's happened. It doesn't. It's pretty meaningless. I think he should be stripped. I mean, it may be difficult. It may require parliamentary time, but I think people, don't find it very strange that he's not a duke, but he's a prince now. Yeah. I think that he should be an ordinary citizen. The prince title should go. I think he should be stripped properly of the Garter. He's, I think, an honorary vice admiral. He's still in the line of succession. He's still a councillor of state. He's still on the royal website. If they are serious about dealing with this problem, they need to actually totally distance themselves, because he's actually damaging the monarchy as it stands. I mean, this infected limb is now infecting the body itself.
Is exile the only option in order for the King to resolve this issue and move on?
Well, I think, the honourable thing, and Andrew always describes himself as an honourable man, would be to give up a royal lodge and to go and live in exile. He's got a palace in Abu Dhabi given to him. There are plenty of places he could go to lie low. I think
he's got enough money, so I'm told.
Yes, he's got plenty of money. He's inherited money. He's made a lot of money over the years from his business activities, so he could easily do that. I mean, he would be compensated for leaving Royal Lodge. That was the deal. They've just sold some houses in Belgravia. They made some money from selling a Swiss chalet. There's plenty of money there, and I think the embarrassment is to see him on the Windsor estate, whether he's riding his horse or scowling behind the wheel of his Land Rover. Yeah. People just don't want to see him now.
Do he and Sarah remain a team for the foreseeable?
Well, I think this is an interesting question. I suspect that she won't want to go to Abu Dhabi. I mean, she'll go off to the States and reinvent herself. So I suspect that we will see this parting. She kind of hung in there limpet light because he was Duke of York, and she could monetize that position. I think now that she's playing Sarah Ferguson and in disgrace, I think it's going to be harder, less interesting for her.
Having profiled him in such detail, where do you think Andrew's head is at this morning? How do you think he's feeling? What's going through his mind?
Well, I think he's very self-centred. He never thinks of other people. I mean, this was sort of the problem of the Newsnight interview. There was no sense of empathy for the victims. Yeah. And so he'll be just thinking he's been hard done by and be angry.
So he'll play the victim card and he'll convince himself that he's a victim?
Yes, I think so, and she'll do exactly the same. I mean, what he really misses is the pomp and ceremony that came with being a royal. That's his whole sense of identity. So not being able to go to the Garter lunches and to sit, to stand on the balcony at Buckingham Palace, those are things that will really hurt him, not the end of his reputation.
And in terms of where we go from here, so he's relinquished, as you say, a couple of those titles. He remains the prince. What do we know of his relationship with King Charles? Are the two men close? Do they get on?
No, they're not close. They're very different personalities. I think there was a certain amount of jealousy between them. Andrew felt he could do a better job than Charles. Charles envied Andrew's good looks, the freedom he had for his own career. I think Charles has a certain sentimental attachment to his brother, and he gave his mother an undertaking he would take care of him. But I think he can see the reputational damage. I mean, the person who's driving this is William, who is much more ruthless and is aware that he's going to inherit a mess unless it's sorted out now.
Yes, and therefore, on the occasion of William's coronation, well, some of the papers, including the Telegraph, are reporting that he will not attend the coronation of King William when it happens. I think we can bear that. That's unlikely that William would tolerate that. Are there any sanctions that William would consider when he becomes king?
Well, I think it depends what happens now, but I think he would certainly find ways to get him out of Royal Lodge. I think he would certainly strip him of his princedom and some of the other things. So, you know, I think it will just depend what happens over the next few weeks.
So he's got to hope that his father resolves this issue before he becomes king, to remove that headache from him.
That's what the hope is. And I think the worry is that there are more damaging revelations to come, which there are. I have a lot of material which I'm putting into an updated paperback in the summer. I know that there are much more to come out from the Epstein revelations. We're beginning to see them today, and that will continue. There are other books coming. So we have Virginia Giuffre's book on Tuesday, but there's another book called Blue Butterfly by another victim coming out next month. And I think we will now get more victims coming forward, and I think more people coming forward with stories. You know, the fact the protection officer has now spoken to the papers suggests that others will come forward. And I think this thing will begin to unfurl, and it's going to be really bad.
Yes, those non-disclosure agreements at a certain point won't be worth the paper they're written on, will they? No. If there's enough of a critical mass of stories that paint a picture of Andrew as a man of poor judgment and potentially worse. Is it worth, for the purposes of devil's advocacy, to point out that he's been convicted of no crimes? Is there an element to which this man has been thrown under the bus and is the victim of hearsay and trial by media?
No, I mean, I think there's plenty of evidence. We've had the evidence just in the last few weeks of him lying about how long he knew Epstein. You've got the evidence in my book, which is, I think, pretty damning and pretty comprehensive. You've got, plenty of testimony. I mean, he's been shown, both of them, time and time again, to have lied. And I don't think anything that either of them says can be taken seriously now. And that comes, from my 4 years of research. I don't say that lightly.
Does the king have one hand tied behind his back? Is there a concern on the part of palace officials and the monarch that if he's too hard on Andrew, Andrew could exact revenge? Because, of course, he is the king's brother. He knows where the bodies are buried. And is there a risk that Andrew, if pushed too far, could do a Harry, move abroad, write a book, make a TV show and destroy the royal family?
Yes, I mean, that's always been the concern. I think it's more likely to come from Sarah than from Andrew, and I think it's more likely to be done through a cutout, a sort of Omid Scobie figure. But I think the one bit of pressure the royal family have is the future of the two daughters. And I think if they were seen to somehow undermine the royal family, the penalties would be exerted on the daughters. So that's the deal. Because you have to feel for the girls this morning, don't you? Well, I'm afraid I'm one of the commentators who doesn't feel for the girls too much. I mean, I know quite a lot about them and their involvement in what their parents were up to, and so I'm afraid I don't have a great deal of sympathy for them. Do you think that they've inherited some of the traits of their parents? I'm afraid so. That's a concern, isn't it? And so, I mean, what is the likelihood that Andrew could write a book? Because, of course, if he did, he would make millions. Well, I think would people take him seriously, because he's been shown time and time again to have lied. He denies actually even having met Virginia Giuffre, so it would be quite a change to suddenly say, well, I did, and this is here are the gory details. So I think it has to be done through a cutout. But yeah, I think I think the royal family clearly have baked that in. They accept that may be the case, and they'll take the hit. Yeah, do you think that in regards to Andrew's decision to relinquish his Duke title and his membership of the Order of the Garter, that was somehow a negotiated settlement in which
Andrew keeps the Royal Lodge and keeps his status as a prince?
Yes, I mean, it was a fudge. You know, the titles are only in abeyance, and I think that the feeling was that this might be enough, but it's always too little too late.
Yeah.
And they're way behind public opinion here. I think they need to get ahead of it by doing something very decisive. And this should be coming from the King. It shouldn't be a statement from Prince Andrew, filled with some of the stuff he said before, which we know is not true.
How existential a threat is this scandal, a scandal unearthed by your book entitled To the Royal Family, to the Monarchy?
Well, I think, you know, as you kindly said, I think this is the biggest scandal in living memory. I think it's really now threatens the future of the monarchy and the trust and respect that people hold.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining us for the most compelling interview. Let me tell you that entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York is one of the biggest sellers in recent years, and it's out now. Andrew, thank you. Next up, folks, lots more to come. By the way, how do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? 0344 499 1000. And we're going to have a look at the Green Party. Are they the next party of the left? Is Keir Starmer looking over his shoulder? Or are they dangerous extremists? Well, I'll be welcoming into the studio their biggest critic, their ex-leader. Don't go anywhere.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Listen, a massive response to my interview with Andrew Lowney, the author of the bombshell Prince Andrew book. This from 18th century man who says, Mark, would you please inform your guests that Prince is not a title, it's what the son of a monarch is. One can no more be stripped of princeship than you can be stripped of sonship. Good morning, Mark, says Ron. Fascinating interview with Andrew Lowney. I've just ordered his book and can't wait to read it. Love your show. Ron, thank you for that. Liz in East Kilbride in Scotland says, hello, I do not think for 1 minute Prince Andrew gave up his titles. He was stripped of his titles, completely different. And Stephen says, Mark, Andrew hasn't lost his titles. He just said he won't use them. A massive difference. Listen, let's talk about British politics. Let's talk about the left, because at the moment, Keir Starmer faces a major threat from the Green Party, who are rising in the polls under the leadership of their new leader, Zach Polanski. But one of his fiercest critics is very much a foot soldier of the Green Party movement and its former deputy leader, Shara Ali, who joins me now. Hello, Shara.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me.
So you would like to have a left-leaning, environmentally focused political party in power. That's what the Green Party was when you were its deputy leader. What's changed?
Well, essentially, even Zach's main pitch is eco-populism, and this just doesn't make sense. Populist movements are a lowest common denominator approach. The Green Party is all about convincing people. It's not about taking, the lowest common denominator. Eco-warriorship, if you can call it that, is hard. It's a hard sell. It's not going to be easy, for example, to get people to change their lifestyles. This is a very hard job. We're not going to do it just by giving people the earth, pretending that there's a magic money tree when we're talking about wealth taxes. That isn't going to cover it.
No, and that's the point, is that if you're serious about power and if you're serious about prioritising the environment, you're still going to have to take the economy with you.
Well, this is the other thing, that Zach is speaking out with party policy. He's been telling us that the government finances is nothing like the home finances. Well, I'm afraid it is. Even for our party, we're talking about balancing the books. We went into the general election with a credible plan to make sure that we didn't continue the debt of financing. That's not a credible option. We should be moving towards a carbon-focused currency. That's a completely different concept. It's a hard sell. The idea that you and I, for example, have a carbon budget, that's a completely different way of thinking about economics. He's not pushing that at all. He's sticking within the current frame of economics, and he's trying to say that we can get everything we need by carrying on in debt without any kind of consideration about where that money's coming from.
No, and it would likely be ruinous, wouldn't it, for the country? So tell me about your legal action against the party of which you were previously its deputy leader.
Well, I mean, it's extraordinary. The Green Party has the notoriety of being the first political party to have been found guilty of unlawful, direct, gender-critical belief discrimination. That's not something to be proud about. And if you and I took any organisation to court, right, and we were found proved right, the last thing that organisation would do was persecute you further. And that's what they've done.
And
they decided
double down.
to remove me. So
you were
going
thrown out of the party?
Well, yeah, that wasn't even the case the first time round. I was still able to stand for election. And this time round, after having won both the direct discrimination claim and also won the cost hearing at huge expense to the Green Party, the fanatics within the party have persecuted me further. And that's why it's a slam dunk victimisation case. It is going to cause a lot of problem for the party if they don't actually try and get a grip of this. We cannot be excluding, not just me, but extraordinary women in the party who are the lifeblood of the party, who have built it up from scratch long before Zach Polanski joined. They are being excluded, and there is a whole series of direct discrimination cases against the party, which will end in bankruptcy. But what I went into the politics for is not just to speak to people who agree with me, and that's another problem with Zach. He's narrowing our ambition. He talks about bold politics. It's anything but bold. Narrowing your appeal to ex-Corbynistas is not my idea of bold politics. What we should be doing is convincing people who don't already agree with us. Everybody has to benefit from green politics done properly, including environmental sustainability, including equality. We are not addressing the white working class populations, for example, right? So when they're protesting against asylum hotels, our take is to join the anti-racist movement, who were proved wrong. When asylum seekers were not just charged but convicted of sex crimes against white working class girls, where were we? Genuine equality, genuine egalitarianism would stand up for the rights of those girls who were assaulted. Why aren't we doing that? There is absolutely nothing. It's a fraud. There is absolutely nothing egalitarian or equality focused about discriminating against women who are standing up for sex-based rights, nor is it equality focused to constantly demonise the white working class population of this country. And Zach is going to be a major problem for us when we enter, if he's still at the helm, the general election. What's going to happen is that he is essentially attracting people towards reform. We are not actually giving them that answer, because Reform is getting votes from across the board, including traditional Labour voters. He is not even addressing the main problems of this current society. And we're actually grappling with an additional toxic cocktail of Islamism, not just in the Green Party, but across. You know, we've seen it in Birmingham. I regard that as an anti-Semitic judgment, right, to try and stop, however obnoxious the Israeli fans might be, to try and stop them from entering this country to watch a football match. Of course, we should be policing, but we shouldn't be depriving from whatever country they come without good cause, and there isn't sufficient cause. It's not just a cost situation, it's a matter of principle. What's happened there is Islamist MPs have pushed their weight around. They have campaigned against that simply because we've heard them talking about Birmingham being a pro-Palestinian city. No, it's not. It's a British city. And as an MP, any dutiful, responsible MP, they must serve every citizen in the country, Jews and Muslims equally. And so what is an Islamist MP? Somebody who puts the needs and interests, perceived or real, of Muslims ahead of other non-Muslim citizens. That is not the Green way. We are for equality for all, and that's going to be a major problem. If we don't address it head on, we are actually contributing to the divisiveness of society.
And your overview of the party, I think, is very accurate, because what they've done is they've abandoned the working class, they've abandoned women by adopting gender identity ideology, and they've also abandoned Jewish people, who I've always thought Jewish people in any society, if you look at the history books, tend to be the canary in the coal mine of a free country. Regarding your incredibly controversial views on gender identity, essentially, the party disowned you after you maintained the principle that there are two biological sexes and that female-only sex-based rights and spaces and all the rest of it must be protected. That was your great sort of controversial move, is that right?
Well, not only that, but by my lights, and one of the reasons for my longevity, I would say, and the reason they've had to press the nuclear and try and do whatever they can just to remove me without good cause, and it's been tested by the courts, is that party policy is gender critical. We were the first party, actually, to say that women should be allowed, for the purpose of dignity and safety, to have single-sex wards in hospitals. That's actually party policy. So everything that we're saying, for example, the idea that a woman can have a penis, that is not party policy. That is a perversion of any attempt to extrapolate from one sentence around trans women being women, which isn't even a literal claim. It can't be. It's absurd. But the whole of party policy revolves around objectivity, including around the sexes. A lot of party policy, including sex-based rights, the idea, for example, that no child, again, party policy, no child should leave school without a biological understanding of reproduction. That, again, implies and infers and requires us to understand that there are two sexes. So it's Zach Polanski and his fan club who are out of kilter here. And there has been extraordinary, he's an effective communicator. Insofar as he's going for a very narrow base, he has successfully recruited people, ex-Corbynistas, who might otherwise have been joining your party, who have, you know, having their internal strife. He's done that, but that isn't a party which is firing on all cylinders. That is not a party which welcomes viewpoint diversity. And the reason we need, any political party needs difference of opinion, is that they can make better policy, they can engage with people who disagree with them, and ultimately they make better policy. And that's what he's not doing. He's retreating into, of course, an echo chamber. But I put it to you that of the tens of thousands of members who have joined the party in the last few weeks, maybe from 65,000, which was the previous high when I was deputy leader in 2015, to now 115,000. That is a significant increase, no doubt about it. I put it to you that the vast majority of those members believe that there are two sexes.
Yeah, that's the great irony, isn't it? And I want to ask you what you've been through personally in your battle with the party that you once helped run. What kind of a toll has it taken on you emotionally?
It's significant, but at the end of the day, and I would say this is one of the reasons I went into Green politics, right? Not to get elected quick or at all even, but because I believed in it. And I did believe, and I still believe in the true values of the Green Party. So ultimately, if I or anybody is subjected to discrimination, which is a serious matter, right? It feels bad, it feels rotten, it's oppressive. I can't just walk away from that. And the very same thing that drew me into politics is the very same thing that is resulting in me not letting this drop. And I know there's a tactic, which is very common, to try and wear somebody down, to deprive them of funds, but I'm determined. I was determined the first time. Anybody who thought that I wasn't going to take it to the finish line, they were mistaken. And that's the same again.
But has Zach Polanski not achieved great success? Has he not put the party on the map? We're talking about him now. He was on Newsnight. The videos might be cringeworthy in the view of some, but they're going viral. And the polls speak for themselves. I mean, is it fair to say that he's actually doing his job very well as leader?
Well, we have to be careful even with the polls, because there was a by-election, a council by-election, where we're supposed to be doing very well in this kind of terrain locally, right? So you have a Green councillor, you like what you see, you ask for more. And we lost that to a Lib Dem. I think it was, in not Slough, but you see about a 30% drop in vote share. So we lost to a Lib Dem. So I think the thing is that we have to be careful. I do believe that we're going to do well in some conurbations, potentially like student conurbations, but we could lose MPs, like Adrian Ramsey's seat, for example, in strongholds which were previously Conservative. Most of his voters, I don't think, will find Zach's messaging appealing.
Go woke, no vote.
Yes.
That could be your slogan. Look, I know you've got such a busy day. Thank you for coming in and telling us your story. More power to you in your right to free speech.
Yes.
And also in your uncontroversial view that there are two biological sexes, which a cursory glance at a GCSE biology textbook will confirm is the case. Shara, catch up soon.
Thank you.
Shara Ali is the former deputy leader of the Green Party. How do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? I'll be asking Britain's best-known political double act, the Hamiltons, next.
You mentioned his subsidiary titles a moment ago,
Yes.
Earl of Inverness, Baron Killyleagh, in County Down. Now, in 2022, all those people acted against Prince Andrew. The Duke of York took away his freedom of the city of York. The city of Inverness said he should be deprived of titles. The same happened in Killaloe in Northern Ireland, in County Down. Again, there were feelings there that he should no longer have that title. So this has been quite long-standing.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
June, Stuart, Andrew and Sean have been praising Shara Ali, who, of course, is the ex-Green Party deputy leader, for talking a lot of common sense. Many are saying he should join Reform. We're going to get him back, aren't we, Dean? But next up, how do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? Let's ask Britain's best-known political double act, Neil and Christine Hamilton. Good morning, folks.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Mark.
It's lovely to see you. Neil, let me ask you about this. The headlines are quite shocking. They are unedifying. You've got the Mail on Sunday newspaper, Royal Bombshell #1, Epstein set Prince up with second sex abuse victim. Royal Bombshell #2, Andrew told the Met to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre. How existential a threat, Neil, is this to the monarchy?
Well, he's a massive embarrassment to them, isn't he? And actually, if any of this is true, particularly about giving her social security details, etc., to one of his close protection officers, there are potentially a couple of crimes that are disclosed there as well. Misuse of information in particular, private information, that is. So who knows? I mean, obviously we've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. You're innocent unless proven guilty under our legal system, but it all seems very, very damning, and it comes apparently out of emails from him to his staff. So on the face of it, it looks as though it's an open and shut case, but who knows what his defence might be if he were ever going to put one. But I think the King has done the best he can to shut this down, but it's not going to work, really, is it? Because he's still the Duke of York, even though he's not going to use the title. And would actually require an act of Parliament to remove the title from me. You can't just say, I hereby give it away or anything. That's not the way it works. And I can't really see that happening. A bill in both houses with debates on it and so on and so forth. So the King's in a cleft stick, really. This should have been dealt with long, long ago, of course. And I guess that Prince Andrew has not been fully open with his closest family over this, and that's why it's dragged on for so long. But I really do think they should have bitten the bullet. It was obvious that it was going to blow up in a big time way at some stage after his catastrophic interview with Emily Maitlis all those years ago. I mean, that was 6 years ago now, I think, and it's been rumbling along ever since. So it's how not to handle a crisis.
Most definitely. Christine, do you think that parliamentary time should be allotted to actually officially strip Andrew of the dukedom and of the title Prince as well?
I don't, to be honest. It's a waste of time. Aren't we all fed up to the back teeth of ruddy old Andrew? He's an arrogant, boorish oaf. I mean, talk about the grand old Duke of York. He's the damned old Duke of York.
Very good.
I don't know what they put in your tea this morning, Christine, but it's working.
Coffee. I'll tell you, personally, I think he should go and live abroad somewhere quietly, somewhere where he can play golf. I don't know, where do you play golf?
No, not Dubai, but...
no, not Dubai.
Mar-a-Lago.
No, somewhere
Florida.
in Europe where his friends and family...
Switzerland.
Portugal, Spain, I don't know, somewhere like that. But I think his hanging on to Royal Lodge, I understand he's got a contract, I understand he can stay there legally. It's the only royal thing left to him now, isn't it? Oh, I live in Royal Lodge, so I must be royal. The other thing which needs to go, I think, I can't remember, is he something, Councillor of State or something? If something happens to the King, he's in line to take over.
Correct. He remains in line in succession to the throne.
I know he's a very long... No, not the accession
No, I don't think
control.
candidacy. I think that was
No,
taken away from him the last time the king went abroad for a long time.
Can somebody in your vast team check if he is still a councillor?
Definitely. Producer Dean's on the case.
Get it?
I don't think he is.
Because that should go. But, I mean, he's a horrendous embarrassment. I hate to say this because I adored her beyond belief, but I do think his mother should have been stronger with him. She simply couldn't bear to think that her darling Andrew could or would do anything wrong. If she had, as it were, sat on him a bit sooner and said, just stop all this. I mean, we used to laugh, you know, Randy Andy and Air Miles Andy and all that sort of thing, but it was all building up decades ago, and it's now come to this simply appalling crunch. I mean, these emails that keep... Goodness knows, I mean, Virginia Giuffre's book comes out in a couple of days' time. Goodness knows what else is going to be in there. I mean...
Yes.
The man, he's got the gall of whatever. I don't know what your question was.
Well, no, and by the way, breaking news, technically Prince Andrew remains a Councillor of State. However, he's effectively been sidelined and will almost certainly never be called upon to act. A Councillor of State is a senior royal who can carry out constitutional duties on behalf of the monarch, defined by the Regency Act of 1837 and latterly 1953. So the bottom line is that, you know, he remains, though, Neil, the King's brother. He can't be evicted from the family unilaterally because, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, Neil, blood is thicker than water.
Well, that's true, isn't it? And if you're really close as a family, then your first concern is to look after somebody who's got himself into trouble, whatever the enormity of what he's done. I think in Andrew's case, I don't think he's a bad man. I just think he's very dim. And his judgment is appalling. So,
what do you think, Christine? Do you think he's a bad man or just a thicko?
Well, bad is a very loose term, isn't it? I think there's more of the thicko. I'll tell you what I think he is, rather than just bad. I think he's incredibly entitled, and he has felt entitled from the moment he could even think about it. And that's where I think possibly his mother should have reined him in a little bit. His sense of entitlement and arrogance is simply appalling. I mean, you know, he is better than the rest of us, isn't he, because he's Prince Andrew? Well, no, mate, you're not. Because you were born into such a privileged position, you have to earn respect. I mean, poor William, for goodness sake, he's got problems with his father, problems with his wife, he's problems with his brother, and he's now got... Every family has a... awkward uncle, don't they?
Well, they do, the black sheep of the family. And just in terms of the couple, you see, I look at you, Neil and Christine, and you have faced adversity together as public figures, but what you do is you support each other, you make each other stronger and better. But we don't have that with Sarah Ferguson and Andrew, Christine. They are as bad as each other.
Well, they're good on the supporting each other's stakes. I mean, she has been completely astonishing. But, of course, he has given her the lifestyle. He's given her the title. She hasn't got it now. But, you know, he gave her everything, really. I mean, she was just a sort of bouncy middle-class girl. And suddenly she becomes a duchess with access here, there and everywhere. So, you know, she does owe him a heck of a lot.
I'd rather have her than Meghan, anyway, I can tell you that.
When you say you'd rather have her, do you care to elaborate on that, Neil?
No, Mark, stop it.
Because it's a family show, and you've also got your betrothed next to you, so you better be careful. You'll be straight to the divorce courts. And I've heard there's no prenup. Is that true, Christine?
You are lowering the tone, if I may say so. You know exactly what Neil meant. And when she first...
I am as pure as the driven snow.
I know Mrs. Dolan rather better than you might think. When she first arrived on the scene, Fergie was a breath of fresh air, wasn't she? Everybody thought she's going to be great fun.
Yes.
And spare a thought for those two poor daughters who, as far as I'm aware, haven't really put a foot wrong. A few fashion faux pas, but I mean, we're all guilty of that.
The lavatory seat hat.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
you don't choose your parents, do you, Neil?
You don't.
No, indeed. I am very sorry for them. They're very nice girls, actually. We have met them a couple of times. And they must be as horrified as everybody else in a way, although naturally they'll have sympathy for their father's predicament, but nevertheless for them it's a massive embarrassment too.
And it's really grist to the mill for the Republican movement, isn't it, Christine? And that's the real shame, that the consequence of this is a diminished monarchy, a monarchy that's so valued and so important.
You're absolutely right. And when you think of the amount of work that Charles has put in and William, they really are. And I mean, poor William, he's got, how old is he? I don't know, 40-something. He's got decades ahead of him to try and keep the monarchy together, to keep it relevant, to keep it respectable. It's very, very tough on him. But of course it is. It's an absolute gift to the Republicans. I mean, here you are. Why are we paying for this lot? I mean, that's another argument, whether they are value for money. I think they are, to be honest.
It would be very interesting to get Princess Anne on the show and ask what she thinks, wouldn't it, Mark?
Well, definitely. And I think what she thinks, Neil, would be unbroadcastable, wouldn't it?
I would guess so.
My word, yes. Absolutely. She is fabulous. I mean, wouldn't she have made the most wonderful queen?
I agree. The greatest queen we never had. And let me tell you, Neil, the greatest prime minister we never had. And I don't even say that in jest. And by the way, what a first lady.